successors according to law. So help me God.
It's happened before, but it is nonetheless still rather extraordinary that somebody who was only elected or officially sworn in as an MP less than 24 hours ago, in 3 weeks' time, is going to be running the country.
Yes, I think it is rather extraordinary. I think the issue isn't whether someone like that should automatically have to hold a general election. If Andy Burnham wants to introduce major changes to our Constitution, he's talked about overhauling the House of Lords. He's also talked about overhauling our electoral system, bringing in some form of PR. I think if he wants to do any of those things, he needs a mandate from the public to do them. To try and do them without calling an election, I think, would be a constitutional outrage.
I've got an interesting tweet. There's always a tweet, Julia.
Yep.
If I can just read this out to you from Andy Burnham 3 years ago. We need to start demanding a general election at the end of this Tory leadership election. Well, well, well. That was Andy Burnham actually 4 years ago in 2022. So we're saying stick by your word, be consistent, Andy, and when you're Prime Minister, call a general election.
The battle is really on, though, for number 11. Who's going to be the Chancellor? Ed Miliband, don't forget, has played an integral key role in this coup, and it is a coup because no one apart from 25,000 good people of Makerfield have voted for this guy. Yeah. So he's played a pretty integral role in undermining Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer and Ed Miliband aren't really speaking. He's going to want a big reward. But, he is, probably the most left-wing person in the government, and he will spook the markets.
Lou Hay, I mean, the reality is, look, she served her time. She was cast out of government. The reality is, as you said, she has been central to his campaign. She was central to his campaign in Makerfield. More broadly, she's been central to his campaign to enter Downing Street. He owes her, and she will definitely get a role. I'm not.
What do you say to the people that have texted me in their droves this morning? This is a really corny sentence, but it's true. That lawbreakers can't be lawmakers, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, but the reality is she's going to get a job. So the answer is yes, they can.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hey, very good morning to you. Just gone 6 o'clock. My mum would have said, well, not anymore because she's dead, a pinch and a punch for the first of the month. It's the 1st of July. It's 7 days till I'm 61. Welcome to Breakfast, the show that gives you the opportunity to give us your views on the day's news. Don't know what you're doing in the UK. Raining in parts of England. Fantastic. Good for the garden. Again, my mother would have said that, but she can't because she's no longer here. Wherever you are in the United Kingdom this morning, alarm clock, Brits, thank you for tuning in. Are you on your way to work? On your way back from work? Have you started early so you can get off early to watch England take on the Democratic Republic of Congo? Much excitement's in the office. The people in TalkSport gearing up. Everybody excited that we're going to do really well. And then if you watch France, we've got absolutely no hope of winning the World Cup. Just call me cynical. What's in the news today for you to peruse? The indefensible. He finally showed his colours yesterday, didn't he, old Starmer? He unveiled his defence plan. This is the defence plan where the MOD had made it known they needed 28 billion. He decided to give 15 billion, and then it transpired that 5 billion of that he can't afford. And basically, there's a part of me that smiles, OK? I'm slightly conflicted here, because in a way, it shows how utterly incompetent, utterly just out of his depth Starmer always was to do the job, because he didn't have the balls to say, I'm going to attack defence spending, welfare spending, because I understand we need to defend the realm, right? But I do quite like the fact that he's given the middle digit to Andy Burnham, because what he's basically done in this sort of self-congratulatory, I'd like a legacy, you've got one already, you were crap, is in essence, they are, Burnham, you wanted my job, you got me out, your start is you've got to find 5 billion, good luck, you whatever. So that'd be interesting, wouldn't it? Be interesting to see how Burnham does that. My idea is really simple. I just cut the £333.7 billion welfare benefits cut by getting rid of the people who are feckless and are taking advantage, and I spend that on defending the nation, but what do I know? I'm just a stupid old man. 0344 499 1000. We don't have anybody to answer the phones. Tommy, on the way in, Tommy, but we've got Christian who's got a jumper on this morning, which is I thought, God, he's going to be sweaty, but it's a bit chilly this morning. He's put his little zip top on, and Mark, of course, is here. Nehar, who is a pillar of brilliance in a sea of mediocrity. She's here as well. So 0344 499 1000, text to 87222. We've talked about the World Cup. It turns out that Andy Burnham's return hasn't really helped Labour's chances. Later on we'll have John Curtis, the legend. Latest YouGov survey shows that Labour's support is up 2. The Tories are on 20, they're on 20. Reform still leading on 24 for the 332nd time. Very interesting. And then, this is great. You see, the thing is, Burnham, I'm just being honest with you, right? You wanted it, it's all going to start. Turns out the man of the people, Andy Burnham, used 16 grand of your cash, Mr. and Mrs. Taxpayer, to help buy himself a new London flat. During MP's expenses scandal in 2009, he submitted a single claim of about 16.5 grand to cover the purchase of a property, covering their stamp duty, legal fees, and he wanted a new kitchen. Who am I to judge? Who am I to judge? But, you know, man of the people, bought a flat down south. I thought it was all about being in the north. And he still owns the flat. But, I mean, forgive me, I could be called severely cynical. Also, after the furore yesterday about 83 illegal migrants being given brand-new £250,000 build houses, Shabana Mahmood, brilliant, what a Home Secretary she is, they're not going to be allowed to get this anymore. Those 83 can still stay there. We're not getting rid of them because that would be unfair. But it's never going to happen again. Well done, Shabana. And a couple of stories that I love today. I love. Woke civil servants axe maths exams for the jobs at Treasury to boost diversity. So, in essence, if you can't add up, you could end up at the Treasury. But then the Chancellor can't bloody well add up either, so let's just set that out. And white working-class students are excluded from almost all Oxbridge diversity scholarships, according to the Daily Telegraph. So there you are. So if you can't add up, you'll get a job in the Treasury. And if you're white, you've got no chance of going to Oxford. No doubt we'll also talk about Harry and Meghan, who annoy the bits off me. But when I left our joint house this morning, I told Charlie, I rolled over and said, Charlie, wear pink. And she's turned up in white. Good morning.
Good morning. I know.
Charlie rolling.
I feel we're out of sync now.
We are out of sync.
I should call ahead, shouldn't I, and make sure that we're matching. I should call ahead.
He's had a nightmare. Taxi went to the wrong house. I don't know how we get this right, to be honest.
It did, but I would like to actually know what house... Well, I Google mapped where it went, because I do know... I'm sure that breaks all kinds of GDPR rules. But anyway, I'd like to work out who lives there. I won't give the address away. Well, because it was a very nice house.
I forgot to ask you yesterday, many people were asking me, is your kitchen finished?
It is finished, yes. It's been installed. I've had a new kitchen installed. It just needs
It's not finished, is it? It's been going on for months. This is the worst kitchen installation ever.
It needs the last lick of paint.
Excellent. Right, 0344 499 1000. Charlie, let's get straight to it. Indefensible, page 1 of the Mail. Screaming headlines today. PM finally unveils his defence plan. But there's a £5 billion black hole. So as I said in the introduction, half of me thinks that just about sums up how utterly incompetent you are. And the other half is slightly chuckling to myself, because that is the ultimate middle finger to Andy Burnham, isn't it?
Absolutely. And it's on most of the front pages this morning, including not a paper that I'm overly familiar with, but, you know, I don't always discredit, The Guardian. So when The Guardian even says... I know.
Sorry.
I know.
What?
But even when they say the PM's defence funding leaves Burnham with a £5 billion hole to plug, you know something's gone horribly wrong, because it is a left-leaning supporting paper and a Labour supporting paper. So you know things are bad for the incoming Prime Minister. You know what's... Supposing it is Andy Burnham. I mean, we keep saying the incoming Prime Minister, Andy Burnham. It's got to be him, hasn't it? The nominations haven't even opened yet, but there we go.
No.
And it is so extraordinary that, the Prime Minister said as part of his speech yesterday, there are difficult choices to make, or I think he said, to quote him directly, I'll find the quote myself. I'll find the quote. Where was it?
Don't worry about
anyway, but he did say that there were tough choices to be... no easy answers to raising the money. There are no easy answers to raising the money. There are easy answers.
There are really, Starmer, you idiots.
To which the Prime Minister, unless he's, got early onset dementia or something like that, he tried to find £5 billion in welfare savings to plug, £5 billion that's needed now for defence. So, of course, there are no easy answers, but you tried to find the right answers, or one of the solutions, and you completely failed and capitulated to your own backbenchers, your hard-left, Labour-leaning backbenchers, who are going to do the same to Andy Burnham if he dares tries to cut spending or to cut welfare.
And that is the point, isn't it? That a leader, in all seriousness, a leader has to have, and I listened to what Kemi Badenoch said the other day, and she's spot on. Leadership is about making hard choices. Government is about making hard choices. Sometimes choices that aren't popular in your party, in Parliament or in the country, but knowing it is fundamentally the right thing to do. There is no doubt in my mind that the same thing will happen to Burnham, even more so after yesterday. What I hated about yesterday, and we'll show you a little clip in a minute, is the self-congratulatory, legacy-building pats on the back that he and Rachel Reeves gave each other, completely tone-deaf to how utterly appalling both of them were in government. I mean, this is him. I'm spending 300 billion on defence. We will 300 billion over the next 4 years. Have a watch. This is him yesterday trying to cement his legacy.
We are already delivering the biggest sustained increase in defence spending since the 1980s. £270 billion over the spending review period. And I can announce today that under the Defence Investment Plan, we are increasing this by a further £15 billion, setting a new record of spending almost £300 billion over the next 4 years to back our armed forces and strengthen our national security.
Let's just have it as it is, right, Keir? The fact of the matter is the MOD are going to have to make £10 billion in cuts because they needed 26, 27, 28. You've given them 15. And you haven't even financed the 15. 5 has been left for Andy Burnham. The fact of the matter is that is absolute proof that this man has put in welfare benefits in front of the defence of this nation. And until this country is brave enough to have that discussion without upsetting... Oh, yeah... Listen, I say it every time, and I don't say it because I need to. I say it because I believe it. I'm a massive Charlie supporter of the concept of the welfare state. I'm very happy to pay taxes to help people who can't help themselves. But I am sick to the back teeth, as are millions of taxpayers in this country, about people spending my money, my tax, whatever that tax is, on the lazy and the feckless and people that are gaming the system. And Starmer would say, that's unfair, that's not inclusive, that's far right. No, it's the truth, you total idiot. That isn't it? It's the truth.
Absolutely. Look, the first duty of any government, whatever your politics and whatever your background, the first duty of any government, of any Prime Minister, is to defend its nation, defend its citizens from all kinds of threats. And we've seen threats throughout the years, whether it's the increasing threat from Iran, China, Russia, and others in the Middle East, whether it's the splinter groups from the Hezbollahs, the Houthis, the Hamasis. We know that these threats exist out there. The government should have its number one priority.
Absolutely.
To fund our defence. And the fact that this is a guy, to add insult to injury, that wants to become the head of NATO. You know, if he does land that plum role of however many thousands...
I mean, there can't be any way that he's going to be there. I mean, it's ridiculous, man. And you get to the point, you know, there's a part of me, as I've said, that, you know, he stuck the middle digit up to Burnham. But this is this country's defence. And why on earth can any Prime Minister look its people, their people, whatever you're supposed to say, in the eye and go, I know, but the thing is, people who make up being anxious or tired or emotionally drained, they're worth more than defending you lot from being bombed by a foreign power. It is utterly, utterly inconceivable to me. Straight away, 0344 499 1000. What do you make of the indefensible Keir Starmer yesterday finally unveiling the plan, the defence plan that cost him his defence secretary, who said you're not brave enough to defend the nation? He said you'll get 15 billion more. Well, he can't finance 15 billion, so he's left Andy Burnham with 5 billion to find. That'll be fun. I wonder how they'll do that. Oh, yeah, that'll be tax us more. That'll be right, yeah. Also, you know, we had demanded, and I think NATO and Trump, 3%. I don't know when we're going to hit that figure. But the fact is, it's 10 billion shy of what the defence secretaries and chiefs have said they need. It's an absolute cluster, whatever.
Yep.
Morning, Jez. Happy birthday in order for today. You're 61. No, I'm not. It's next... No, I'm not. It's next Tuesday, so ridiculous. Sean in Gloucester, good morning. How the hell is this? You couldn't make this up. Are you serious, Jez? The Treasury are stopping numeracy tests in applications to the Treasury to increase diversity. It's true. It's in every single newspaper this morning, right? This is absolutely true. It's Sun, page 6. Have you not heard this story? I mean, this sums up why my country's an embarrassment. Math test ditched to boost diversity. Woke civil servants boosted diversity at Treasury by axing a maths exam for candidates. They feared the numerical reasoning test was having an adverse impact. And, of course, they've got a chancellor who can't add up, so that was nailed on. That's the sort of rubbish that I deal with every day. That is a story.
Well, I thought she was, on her CV, I thought she was,
Rachel from Accounts.
Rachel from Accounts, exactly. I thought she had, and I thought she sort of...
But, your average man and woman would go, heaven bloody help us, what's going on with the world?
Well, it's common sense, isn't it? Look, not in all parts of the Treasury, because there'll be different parts of the Treasury. There'll be a press office in the Treasury where you might not necessarily need to be doing all the maths genii around it.
Presumably you haven't got to pass English. You'll be able to read or write to be a journalist or a press person in the Treasury.
Exactly. So horses for courses, different strokes for different folks, and that's how we all sort of come together.
That sounded too wishy-washy for me, Hinge.
Well, no, because if you're
pass maths, pass English, show a bit of dedication, and get on with your life.
Oh, absolutely. There's no way you should be in the Treasury if you haven't got, for example, your basic in maths, your GCSEs. But if you're going on to, I wouldn't expect Mr. or Mrs. VAT, whoever is dealing with VAT or tax now in the Treasury, to not have a higher qualification than that. Of course you want them to. You want them to be the experts.
Are you implying, by the way, from your rather unfair language, then, that Rachel Reeves is not in any way, like, what's the word, qualified to do the job that she's doing?
I don't think she's qualified.
I'm going to play a clip. This is her putting you in your place, Rowley. This is her reminding us all, Rachel Reeves, that she's an economist, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning.
Well, I'm an economist. I studied economics. I got a master's in economics from the London School of Economics, and I worked as an economist at the Bank of England.
This is a very shallow comment. Look what the job's done to her in 2 years. She looked about 25 there. She can't add up, and now, apparently, to work in the Treasury, you don't need to add up. Morning, Jez, morning, Hinge and Bracket. I've got a question regarding the illegal immigrants being housed in informal housing. Do they face bailiffs if they can't pay bills once established, like all non-paying households do for non-payment, or they're exempt from prosecution as they've come into this country illegally? That's a good question.
Very good question.
Probably get away with it. Probably get away with it because probably, I don't know whether they're speaking the language, might have difficulty reading, might be on their way to do an interview for the Treasury. Maybe that's what's happened. Maybe the illegal migrants are being allowed to work in the Treasury because they don't need to pass maths. Louise, good morning. Starmer leaving a £5 billion black hole for Burnham is just like a cast-aside girlfriend keying her boyfriend's car. Have you ever had your car keyed by an ex?
No, I've only ever had one car, and I've never been kissed.
I thought you were going to say I've only ever had one partner. That's so sweet. Good morning, Lord Damon. Jeremy, the absolute beautiful Charlie, Damon from Wigan. As a former army veteran, I think this country is utterly open to all enemies. It's so scary to think that in the last 20 years since I was serving, how the government just don't care, it seems, about the British public and just continue to waste all other departments on money, but turn a blind eye and allow defence to be completely destroyed. When will we get a government that will look after its own? I agree with that.
Absolutely. And is it Damon? Who was that?
Yes, Damon.
Damon is in a better position than most, because I think if he's from Wigan, I think that's where Andy Burnham said he was going to continue to live. He's got a house in Wigan, that's where he'll be staying. If he's living part of the north, or if it's just outside Wigan. So, hopefully his neighbour is heeding what Damon's message. You're right.
The speech yesterday, we didn't get a chance the day before. We didn't get a chance to speak about it. You were on a different show. Ian Collins or something. So, fine. Just help me out. What did you think of this number 10 in North?
It's all PR, and I think, look, this has happened in various different iterations. I remember during David Cameron's time, even under Gordon Brown's time, they used to hold cabinet meetings in different parts of the country. So for just one day, one morning, all the cabinet would go to Middlesbrough, for example, and hold a meeting there as if that was a recognition of we know what it's like in Middlesbrough. And then they would all go off and try and do various visits. It took up so much time, so much effort, so much cost. The levelling up agenda, trying to move government departments. This is under the Tories, under Boris Johnson and my old boss Michael Gove. We moved departments out of Whitehall into different areas. So part of the Home Office went to Stoke, part of the Treasury has gone to Darlington, for example. That has had some impact, but it's we're now at a point where
It's window dressing, isn't it?
I think... look,
I'm not against the North. I lived in Manchester 15 years, but the capital of this country is London, the centre of business and Whitehall and civil service. In a way, it's just like window dressing to me.
And creating jobs and creating growth isn't just by moving civil servants from Westminster to the north. It's about having maybe more competitive tax rates in different parts of the country.
I don't see how opening up an office in Manchester means that you're going to spread money across this country. You could spread money across this country quite rightly, and I agree with levelling up, by sitting on your backside in Whitehall and doing the hard yards. Andy Burnham's decided, it seems, in the last few days to do sort of personal messages on his old WhatsApp or his Instagram or whatever. This is him discussing... it's very... I can't decide whether I like him or he makes me feel... anyway, this is him discussing number 10 North when back in London in black cab. Have listen.
I left the north again, I travelled south again. Well, there's a bit of a Smiths lyric there for you, but I'm back in London. After the speech, pleased with how number 10 North has gone down. You know, what it'll mean in future is that everybody doesn't have to come down here to have a serious conversation with the government. If you think about it, a North Pole to the South Pole, it'll just make the country feel more balanced. I hope you're excited by it. I'm certainly excited by it. The whole idea is number 10 North is a conduit to get power out into the country, every single part of it, and get growth going everywhere. So yeah, come on everyone, get on board with it, and let's make it happen. Good growth in every postcode, hope in every heart. That's our mission.
There's, of course, already a civil service base in Darlington, as Charlie said. Have you got hope in your heart about Andy Burnham?
I am always hopeful. Whoever might come in number 10.
That's why you're single.
I'm in eternal. I'm single by choice.
No, you're not. You're single because you're desperate.
Just usually other people's. It's usually other people's.
Let's just throw it out there, people. Alarm Clock Britain, please feel free to text 87222. But I just want to say, do you have hope in your heart, peeps, this morning? Do you have hope in your heart? Jane, good morning.
Morning, JK. Defence. I am sick. It turns my stomach every time I see that man. I can't even say... I don't want to say his name. I don't listen to him anymore. I see him, with armed forces, pretending he's the almighty. I'll save you, Mr. Soldier. While he rubs his hands and pays the welfare benefits to other people. It makes me sick. I just don't want to see him wandering about with our armed forces when you know damn well that 1 minute he's taking things off them, the next minute he's saying, I'll see you in court.
Completely agree. And she's made a point that I haven't added this morning. The hypocrisy of Keir Starmer is unpalpable. I mean, apart from the fact that he's left Andy Burnham with a £5 billion black hole, that he has given only half to the armed forces that have told us what we need, that he won't attack welfare benefits. I agree with Jane, and I should have said it earlier. There are many things that have disgusted me about Keir Starmer's 2 years. The worst, in my humble opinion, and this is no disrespect to pensioners or farmers or waspy women, to actually prosecute knowingly men and women who serve for this country, who put the uniform on, who are maybe in care homes or just enjoying their retirement, waiting for a knock on the door with that absolute appalling Attorney General Hermer. Worse than that, though, to give immunity to the IRA. You can shove it whether... I don't want to ever be able to think... Andy Burnham needs to reverse that. That'll be an interesting one. Will Andy Burnham reverse that, Bill?
Let's see. I mean, because, you know...
that'd be a tick for him.
Oh, totally. Look, the one thing Andy Burnham has got going for him is that he's...
eyebrows.
He's got that, and we might be raising ours, you know, depending on how he performs.
I can't raise mine very well.
But he is clearly a better communicator. I mean, I think that video in the cab is a bit cringe, but that's a personal bit. Some people might...
A bit cringe?
A bit cringe.
Hinge thinks it's cringe, people. Hitch and Bracket here, good morning.
But people might think, oh, at least he's communicating directly with the people.
At least he can communicate. But all we're saying is the message is the same, isn't it?
Exactly. If he starts to raise taxes, because if he can't cut welfare to fund the $5 billion black hole, then he's going to raise taxes, then it's just socialism by,
I don't know what that song is. Is there hope in your heart, are you singing? Is there hope in your heart, I pray? Is there hope in your heart, Andy Burnham? Is there hope till the end of the day? Do you not remember that at school?
I'm all
Andy
for that.
Burnham, peeps, wants to know if there's hope in your heart. 0344 419 1000. Text to 87222. Back in 3.
Andy Burnham just drove through there on his way to the palaces of Westminster to be sworn in as an MP and, of course, on his route to number 10.
I swear by Almighty God that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles, his heirs and successors, according to law. So help me God.
There was two things on that manifesto.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This.
Welcome back, 6:27. We're live across the United Kingdom. Jeremy Kyle on Talk Breakfast, the home of common sense and the home, of course, of the alarm clock Britain. And Charlie Rowley is here. Morning, Rachel.
Morning, Jeremy. It's me, Rachel. Secrets out then, when I was in the Treasury. Anyway, happy birthday, fella. Rachel Reeves. She's got to go. As for that defence plan, oh my God. Jeremy, I'll give you some money in 2029. Come collect it, mate. Catch you later.
Right, sorry, so he's obviously not called Rachel and it's not my birthday. Can I just make that point? It's not my birthday for a week. Where's Angry Rob this morning? Is Angry Rob... Where are you, Rob? 0344 499 1000. You're waking up to the news that, well, indefensible, it says on the front page of the Daily Mail. Absolutely indefensible. The PM finally unveils his defence plan. He gave 15 billion. The armed forces chiefs wanted 28, which means they're going to have to make £10 billion in cuts, in real terms, cuts, and we're already indefensible. But then he turns out he's only can finance 10 of it, so he's basically pushed this right on Burnham and gone, there's a £5 billion black hole. Good morning to Roger from Wales.
Hello, Roger.
I'm curious to know how much would the government save if they instantly stopped all benefits today for non-European, non-UK citizens. Does anybody know that figure? That's an interesting question.
Yeah, we don't know the figure, but it would be very interesting to look into and just see what that is, because you can imagine that would be quite a sizable number.
David Thomas, Crash and Burnham. His video where he claims to have hope in his heart, are you sleeping? It's a joke. It makes him increasingly sound like Kamala Harris, and we know how that went. He's a superficial chameleon and a very dangerous man. He worries me, the same as Blair did when he arrived on the scene. If you haven't seen the video, back of the cab, down in London, and he says at the end, that's what we're sharing. Genuine belief and hope in your heart. Are you sleeping? If you've got hope in your heart, Alarm Clock Brits, share it with us. Why are you so hopeful now that Andy Burnham has arrived on the scene? But it turns out, by the way, that his return hasn't really helped Labour's chances, really. There's a poll out overnight, YouGov, showing that Labour support up only 2 percentage points to 20. The Tories on 20, Reform still leading 24.
Fascinating.
So where's the Burnham bounce, then? Burnham bounce? Burnham bounce?
Well, this is why I think, well, it could be non-existent, it could be completely cut short, because the length of time between him winning Makerfield and actually becoming PM. So he's now got all of this time to fill, where he made, obviously, that speech the other day, which was a bit of waffle, and he's doing these sort of make-up...
Did it not give you hope in your heart?
Well, there's an element of it, because you think, OK, at least he's a better communicator, at least he's a better politician, but he could be even more. And this is what everybody said before. He could be... even though people couldn't stand Keir Starmer for all of the decisions, and you've rattled off lists and lists of them in the past, of why Starmer was not fit for office and shouldn't be number 10, it could be even worse, everybody was saying. Can you imagine Ed Miliband as Chancellor?
No.
It will get even worse.
Will it give you hope in your heart if Ed Miliband is hope in your heart? That's just great. Angry Rob, good morning.
Morning, Jess. Morning, Charlie. Rob, on his way to work. You're on about Starmer with his defence budget? Well, he certainly is going to leave a legacy, isn't he? He certainly is. What an absolute car crash of a dumpster fire of a party the Labour Party is. They can't decide what to do. You've got the people in charge of the money. You've got the people doing the adding up like Rachel Reeves and Diane Abacus. I mean, if they're the mathematical geniuses of that party, well, that tells you everything you need to know. Then you've got David Lammy, who can't even answer a question on Mastermind, and it goes on and on and on. These people are as thick as a pot of custard. But hang on a minute. He wants a legacy. Don't worry, Keir, you'll have a legacy. I hear that Mickey Mouse is now wearing a Keir Starmer watch, pal.
He's such a happy man, Angry Rob. You are always welcome. 0344 499 1000. Huey, Good morning, gentlemen. I know this is cynical, he said, but I'm afraid I'm already as sick of Burnham as I've been of Starmer, and he's not even in office yet. What do people see in this man? It's beyond me. From Helen in Yorkshire, number 10 North would be central Scotland, not Manchester, wouldn't it? Well, listen, the other thing we should mention, and I haven't said this to you, is he wants to devolve more powers. Look what happened with the SNP. That didn't work out too well, did it?
Well, exactly. And look, you know, I'm all for, in theory, if you are a regional mayor, and that comes with responsibility.
Oh, have we not got a regional mayor on later? This is interesting. You'll probably be at home in bed after a bit of sausage in the canteen. Please, honestly, will you stop it? I'm just trying to finger through. David Skaith is the Labour mayor of York and North Yorkshire. We got him on later.
Well,
he's part of the Burnham party bit thing, isn't he? I don't know.
I imagine he would be, and he'll probably be welcoming all these new powers that he might be getting. But as long as, but what is the problem with all of this? And it's I know firsthand from my days as a special advisor, although I didn't feel particularly special or give any kind of advice, at the Communities Government.
Is that how you got the job? Was it diversity ticket again, wasn't it? Yeah, there you go. Well, give Charlie the job. Can't add up, can't speak, can't write, completely and utterly clueless, but, you know, we'll just tick the box.
But he turns up.
Yes, he turns up. He's always here. He's always hanging around.
But it's what you don't want is councils always ask for more money.
Yeah.
The regionals always ask for more money, and this is the problem that Burnham's got. He's been a good time mayor of Manchester, where he's received a lot of money from central government, UK taxpayers' money, coming to the Treasury, it's gone to Manchester. He's been able to splash the cash and have the tram network, the bus network, the B network,
the B bus network.
But
tell me something else he's done.
Well, exactly. You'd be hard pressed. I mean, that's all we know about.
BB.
You would be.
Very good.
But he's now got to take tough decisions to stop spending.
Do you think he's buzzing at having to make those decisions?
Well, in the back of the
I think we'll all be stung. I think we'll all be stung by Andy Burnham. It's going to be a nightmare. The reason we're taking the mickey is in Manchester, his big thing is the B bus company. Yeah.
Public ownership in Manchester, or publicly owned in Manchester, which apparently works very well. And I'm sure it does. But, you know, we're talking about now you spending money. He's got to stop spending money. So
he's got to save money, and he's in a real difficult position. Do you understand? I mean, I'm not conflicted, really. It's appalling to have done that, to leave a black hole, but you can understand the bitterness Starmer might feel. Since when, gentlemen, did Manchester become the North? There's another 600 miles of the UK north of Andy's house. It's really irritating and offensive and insulting to persistently hear the far south considered the North by the potential next PM, says Colin in Inverness. And somebody else said to me yesterday, Charlie Rowley, and said, say this to Charlie in the morning. All of this, all the security, all the money, is it actually to encourage business to the north, or is it so he can work from home? It's true, isn't it?
Well, it's a convenience as well as hopeful. A bit of hope there, hope in the heart.
Is there hope in your heart? Are you sleeping? If you wonder what the hell's going on, Andy Burnham yesterday did, I'm going to do this again because it's brilliant, did a little video message for us all when he got down to London. And just play it again, because just listen to the end bit, because I've got hope in my heart. It's going to be brilliant here. Great.
I left the north again, I travelled south again. Well, there's a bit of a Smiths lyric there for you, but I'm back in London. After the speech, pleased with how number 10 North has gone down. You know, what it will mean in future is that everybody doesn't have to come down here to have a serious conversation with the government. If you think about it, a North Pole to the South Pole, it'll just make the country feel more balanced. I hope you're excited by it. I'm certainly excited by it. The whole idea is number 10 North is a conduit to get power out into the country, every single part of it, and get growth going everywhere. So yeah, come on everyone, get on board with it, and let's make it happen. Good growth in every postcode, hope in every heart. That's our mission.
Sorry. Growth in every postcode. Go and have a look at some of the postcodes. There's no growth, but hope in your heart. Are you sleeping? Morning, Jez, and Big Chaz. This is from Dan in Suffolk. I have a heart full of hope for a general election and a new bloody government. That's what I hope for. Joanna from Salisbury. Good morning, sweetheart. Hi, Jez and Charlie. A job I applied for at a pensions company 20 years ago, they had a maths test. When it was checked, they asked me if I'd used a calculator. I had got the first 100% ever. I could have passed it at junior school. I was competing with 18-year-olds in my mid-40s. What is the matter with people? Joanna, I'll tell you what's wrong with people. They're all... I don't know, actually. Good morning, Mary from Suffolk. No, good morning. It's Mary from Suffolk. The song is Give Me Oil in My Lamp, Keep Me Burning. Is it? Great show, love it. By the way, he has that nice young man, has that nice young man, Charlie, ever thought of entertaining an older woman? Just asking.
Well, that's charity. I can. I mean, I might have been to the odd care home once or twice, sort of.
Right.
To entertain. To entertain.
Oh God, it's getting worse. Anyway, well done, Mary. That's good. I'm sure Charlie would love to spend the afternoon having tea and cake with an old lady. Obviously not my mother because she's dead.
I've turned up to the opening of an envelope, Jeremy.
He is.
So,
he is honestly for a tenner. You could have him. He's literally that cheap. Andy, but there's oil in my lamp, so there's not hope in my heart. Does Andy Burnham, Charlie? Does he give you hope in your heart? Are you dreaming?
No. And I'm trying. The reason why I started is because I'm trying to be hopeful. I am trying to be optimistic.
You're trying to find hope in your heart.
I'm searching because I want whoever is in that seat to do well for the rest of the country. But I just think those cringe videos, OK, that's his PR style, that's fine. The redistributing of civil service departments and trying to get... OK, fine. But at the end of the day...
You're another day older.
You're another day older. And that will be you next week. You're going to be another year older next week.
It's getting worse.
But at the end of the day, though, so the point I was just going to make is that people care about the basics. We don't want a 10-year plan. We don't want a 10-year hope of Burnham when he puts out these videos. Yep. We just want someone to get the job done. We want our taxes lower. We want the boat stops. We want our NHS to be working. We want education.
Energy prices. We're going to find out at 7 o'clock this morning what the off-gem, isn't it, are going to do with that. They'll continue to rise, I suspect, and we will promise... I completely agree with you. Liam, good morning.
Morning, Jez. Liam in Yorkshire. I'm fed up of hearing about Andy Burnham already, and he's not even in power yet. I mean, he's not going to be able to do anything. He's going to have the same issue as Starmer, too many backbenchers pulling levers if they don't agree with something. And what's he going to do then? He can have his Mr. Nice Guy act as much as he wants, but it's not going to change anything. The plan is setting out for 10 years' time. God, can you imagine the state of this country in 10 years if they get another term?
Couldn't agree more. And I do think that's the important point, and we've said it again and again. You know, the bottom line is in that speech, and I didn't say this because you weren't here yesterday, Charlie, the fact is there's loads, but if you ask the majority of people on the doorsteps, they would point to 3 or 4 things. They would say, you need to stop the boats. You need to cut the welfare benefit bill to finance public services, predominantly, as we proved yesterday, defence. And you need to cancel the stupid net zero policy that means that we're spending billions achieving nothing, and we need to start drilling in the North Sea. And adding to that, by the way, the British people's demand quite rightly for a national grooming gang inquiry. And if I had, and I said to you the other day, the political capital that he had, and I had a pair, I'd be telling them, I've a chance of saving your jobs. That's what's going to happen. But it won't be. Hope in your heart. That's it. Let's move up to Manchester. People need more than that, Charlie.
You're absolutely right. And that's why it goes back to what you're talking about, the polling, where we haven't seen that Burnham bounce. Okay, it's not there yet. But because the public, they're not stupid. No. You know, that's not a breaking news. That is just, you know, the public...
They've switched on, man. They are switched on.
They're totally switched on. And they don't want to... you don't need to necessarily like your leader. You don't need to be, you know...
But you have to believe he gives a toss about you.
You absolutely have to. But you want your leaders to make tough decisions. Yep. And it is... you know, you get respect. You respect your leaders. We would respect Starmer a little bit more if he was just able to say, you know what, actually, I know people in my backbenchers, they care about people who are sick and vulnerable, and we are protecting those people with benefits, but we cannot protect anyone if we don't have the funding for our defence.
Absolutely.
And so you talk down your backbenchers and
tell your backbenchers to get their heads out of where the sun don't shine and understand that their desire to look after the ill, the mentally ill and the disabled, is very honourable and correct. But dealing with the scroungers and the feckless and the lazy is not dealing with genuine people who need help. That's the problem, isn't it?
Absolutely.
They can't differentiate between the two. And as a result, and we wake up today, if you're tuning in at 20 to indefensible, front page of the Daily Mail, Keir Starmer yesterday, after months, finally releasing his defence investment plan. The armed forces in their entirety wanted 28 billion. He gave them 15. Already they've got to make £10 billion worth of cuts to offset that. Cuts to something as depleted as our armed forces. And then it transpires that he can't even afford to pay the 15 billion. So the incumbent who's coming in next, which will be Andy Burnham, he's going to have to find a £5 million black hole, which is in itself quite ironic. And I haven't said this so far. All we heard about, Mark knows what's coming, all we heard about from Starmer and Reeves when they first arrived in Downing Street was, it's very hard for us, the Tories have left an 11 billion black hole. Well, it's going to be hard for Burnham, you couple of useless people, because you've done exactly the same. Lee, good morning.
Morning, Jezza. Lee from Scarborough, in his van, off to work, veteran. Absolutely disgusted, mate. Absolutely disgusted. Our boys going to war, putting their lives on the line for that man to stand there like he did, rubbing his hands. How on earth could he look a soldier in the eye? I'm a veteran, and I've got mates serving, and I'm telling you this, Jezza, absolutely betrayed. Our lads have been betrayed. Northern Ireland veterans, betrayed. Iraqi war veterans, betrayed. We've all been betrayed. We serve this country, we put our lives on the line, and we're getting prosecuted. We're not only getting prosecuted, Jezza, we're absolutely being underfunded. You might as well give us plastic bullets. What a freaking prat!
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. 6:45. Kinsey in LA very, very soon. Good morning, Mark.
Yes. Morning, crew. Mark from Chingford. You can most probably tell in my voice I'm not very happy today. Everything that's been going on recently, right, okay, Starmer's resigned, good, I'm glad he's gone, right, but now they need to call a general election. Why are they getting some bloke from up north who no one's heard of, no one knows what he stands for? I mean, I'd never heard of him before 2 weeks ago, yeah? So all of a sudden, he's going to be the new Prime Minister. What is that about? He weren't even a member of Parliament. Why can't one of the existing Labour Party step up and think, okay, have a backbone, yeah, okay, I'll be the new Prime Minister? No, because they're all a bunch of bloody, oh God, Jez. They need to call a general election. Let the people of England pick their own Prime Minister. We never asked for this Andy Burnham, whatever his name is, Andy bloody Burnham. Oh God. Anyway, great show, as always. Have a great day.
Honestly, there's simmering anger about Andy Burnham. We've seen the back of Starmer, who can't add up, and Rachel Reeves, who can't add up, and now we've got Andy Burnham, Mr. Eyebrows, who, in his little pitch yesterday in the cab, and I'm going to do it all morning, said, Growth in each postcode and hope in your heart. Just if you do have hope in your heart, are you singing? Jezza says, Bruce, when did Talk become a music station? It's not, but it's got you to text, hasn't it? I'm just saying. I listen, it's just that we're doing... Yeah, have you, Charlie, got hope in your heart? Are you feeling?
Only when I come here. Only when I come here and see you.
Oh, darling. Let's cross to LA to a lady who always has hope in her heart, a spring in her step and a hat at a jaunty angle. She texted me at 3 a.m. this morning. I'm not telling you why. A very good morning, Kinsey Schofield. Hello. Oh, wait.
Trouble. It was work-related.
All right, don't feel defensive. It wasn't. It was work-related, and we'll deal with that. Did you feel that you needed to explain that?
Well, yes, because the chemistry between us is so powerful. I just want to make things clear, you know?
Can I just do something? How you doing?
Oh my gosh,
I'm so bad. I don't even know where that's come from.
You know what? I bought your birthday present today.
Did you?
Yes.
Have you? I don't want to ask because it's very exciting. Have you got hope in your heart, Kinsey Schofield?
I loved the person that commented earlier that it reminded them of Kamala Harris because it's very vague.
Yeah.
He's not laying out any specific plans. It's all vibes. And that's not a campaign. How can anybody get serious about, good vibes and that being it?
Yeah, well, there's hope in our heart and growth in every postcode. Kinsey, the reason we always love having you on, the Harry and Meghan story sort of has moved forward a little bit. They allegedly overnight, you'll tell us more, they agree to strict rules ahead of a return. Now, they are now coming with the children Archie and Lilibet. Who's given them the strict rules? What have they agreed to? When has this happened? It means no cameras, no Instagram posts, no revelations in interviews. That's what they've agreed to. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that is something that had happened, that's a conversation that happened a while ago. And this is a protocol that developed during Queen Elizabeth's reign. I had somebody contact me and ask me to comment about how Queen Camilla refused to allow King Charles to be left alone with Harry. And I said, she's not the architect of this. Queen Elizabeth was nervous about being left alone with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle and actually asked assistants, asked friends to be there, not only in person when Harry and Meghan were there, but over the phone to act as witnesses, to ensure that if they asked anything of her specific, like asked her for money, which Harry, the king at one point when he was Prince Charles, according to Robert Jobson, stopped taking Harry's phone calls because he said Harry was making him feel like an ATM. But, she wanted to protect herself from Harry and Meghan. She was afraid of unauthorized photos leaking. She was afraid of uncomfortable conversations or confrontation. And we're seeing the same with the King Charles reign.
But when they say they agree, has there been an agreement then in the last 24 hours? Because yesterday we were saying they're not coming. He wants absolute demands about this, that and the other about security. Does that mean he's been given that and they've agreed to this, or is this a story from before and it's still one big bloody psychodrama?
I think that this is a story from before that is a psychodrama, yes. I mean, to be honest with you, I'm not convinced that Meghan and the children are coming. I will believe it when I see it.
Well, I'm hoping, there's hope in my heart that she will. Is there hope
I highly
in my
doubt.
heart for Meghan Markle? What?
Happy opposite day. There is no way that's true.
Honestly, I can't. I hate her. You did send me something. I don't hate her. It just annoys me that something that I believe in is being systematically attacked. I seem to have lost my phone this morning. I don't know where my phone is, but there was a wonderful thing. Where is my phone? Maybe it's out there. You sent me this morning at 3 a.m. the most extraordinary, spot-on thing. Tell everybody. This is brilliant, Charlie.
Harry Styles, probably the most relevant, famous male pop star, of my generation, was spotted jogging to one of his shows at Wembley Stadium. And my point to you was, here is Harry Styles, who is one of the most sought-after artists in the world.
Yeah.
And he doesn't think he needs armed guards to accompany him during his jog from his home to his concert, wearing his own merchandise. I mean, you know it's Harry Styles. He's got his own T-shirt on. I thought it was adorable, but I also thought it's the perfect example of Prince Harry's self-importance, that he would think that he needs armed guards when Harry Styles is out there just living his best life.
I couldn't agree more, Charlie. I'm going to find a photo and a bit of a revelation about Harry Styles, but what are your thoughts on what Kinsey says?
Oh, Kinsey's absolutely right, as always. And I saw some of those pictures in the paper of Harry. He's been walking around Hampstead Heath in the Hampstead area. That's where I think he's sort of staying, or where he's based. He was running. He's been jogging.
You were on Hampstead Heath?
No, I was not on Hampstead Heath. I knew as soon as I said that, I knew that you'd make a link to a nice part of London, I'm told. I've never actually been to Hampstead Heath. But the fact that he can do that and feel able to do that, but he's a superstar, megastar. Meghan should be able to do and would be able to do exactly the same. Because you know what? In the UK, despite whatever she wants to say about us or however she feels about us, she knows the strength of feeling of us towards her. We are still actually a very polite nation. And it would take an awful lot for someone to go up to her and just tell her what they actually think. We would politely, I think, if we passed her in the street, probably not say anything.
No,
We'd
I
just
would.
ignore her. Well, but
I'm going to tell you both a Harry Styles story, OK? So I took the Jeremy Kyle show to America from 2010 to 2012, and during the second year, after filming one night, Tom, who was my right-hand man, said, "Do you fancy a beer?" And on 58th in New York, where the show was, it just went to an Irish bar. I'm sitting having a drink, and a bloke comes up to me and he says, "Sorry, there's a lady around the back, a friend of mine. She'd really like to meet you." So I go around and be polite. And she says, "Hello," and I go, "Hello." And she says, "Could I have a photo?" And I go, "Yes." And we do all that. Anyway, I say, "Why are you here?" She said, "Oh, I've come to see my son." I said, "All right, what does he do?" She said, "Well, he's in the entertainment business." Anyway, it transpires that her son was Harry Styles, right? And her son is playing at Madison Square Garden with One Direction. Now, I'm not a One Direction fan, to be perfectly honest. I have thought about setting up a band of fellow old men called One Erection, but we'll leave that where it is. So I decided, along with Tom, to accept the offer of going to the One Direction concert in the VIP, the family bit, right? The family bit, whereupon for about 15 minutes, I'm not lying, all the mothers and grannies of the One Direction lads wanted photographs, and Harry came in with all the boys. There we have it. This is 2012. Look how young I look, for goodness sake. Zoom in on that, right? Look at that. But I must be the only person, right? And I know, Harry, I must be the only person who left a One Direction concert after 11 minutes because it was too loud and lots of kids were screaming. And I went home for a burger. It's true.
I have been to a One Direction concert myself. Your girl loves One Direction.
Well, I did listen. Mrs. Carr was at Take That on Saturday, of course. But yeah, he is an absolute superstar. They were an incredible band. But yeah, went to a One Direction concert for 11 minutes, thought it was too loud, so went home for a burger and a pint of lager. But he's a good kid. And you're absolutely right. He'll run to his concert and Prince Harry's going, ooh. The problem I have with Harry and Meghan is it's like they want everybody to go, ooh, it's that, and nobody cares, do they? They might shout, "Go home," which she'd find completely unpalatable, but that's the truth.
Well, to Charlie's point, someone asked me today, they were like, "You were just in the UK. What are people saying about Harry and Meghan?" And I said, well, they're actually really polite. All they say is they need to apologize to their family and to the country for calling us racist. And I was like, what a sweet reaction. They're not hostile. They ask for an apology. I mean, that is a very polite response to...
I'm not sure most people. I think that's a very... I think that's actually how people see the British, but I think there's quite a simmering anger about many things in this country. I mean, for me, and I'll ask you both this, my concern about Meghan is that if she does come, she just exploits it for her own ends.
No, that's a no-brainer. This is an act of desperation. This is an admission of failure. She said, that this country was horrible and racist to her, and alluded to the fact that she would never return in multiple interviews, a 6-hour docuseries, etc. So the fact that she would jump on an airplane and come back tells us that things are not great. Bank account wise or professionally, the offers are no longer coming in. I haven't seen her with Tyler Perry, Oprah Winfrey, Gayle King, or any of the other people that used to. Where's George Clooney? No one's answering her calls anymore. This is an admission of absolute desperation.
Couldn't agree more, Charlie.
Yeah, I think there's no other reason for it, is it? I mean, otherwise she would just stay in the US and let Harry come over and do what he needs to do to either, for the Invictus Games or repair that damage with his dad. But it's obviously an act of desperation. If she's going to try and repair damage, I'm not going to criticise her for that, actually, because it needs to be done. And, life's too short on this planet to be, completely held a grudge against someone. She has ruined, I think, that man
I
and
don't
that
agree
family.
with you, and I'll be called old and cynical. I think she's behaved so deplorably towards the royal family and the British people that they are actually strong enough to say, we're not giving you a second chance. Wear it, own it, get on with it.
Well, we'll never forget it, and maybe we'll never forgive it. But I would appreciate it if maybe she did just try and whether she'll apologise or not.
She doesn't show remorse, though, Kins, does she? I mean, Charlie's right. He's a much nicer person than you and I, but she's not going to show remorse at all. It's not in her DNA.
She never holds herself accountable, and Thomas Markle is the perfect example of that. If she had any sort of empathy or compassion, she would pick up the phone and prioritise calling her ailing father.
Couldn't agree more. We love having you on. We'll see you in the morning. I think the green is beautiful, Miss Schofield. I'm looking forward to next week.
Thank you. Tell Mrs. Kyle to take me to a Five concert.
You like Five?
I love Five.
I've got a story for you tomorrow about Five. Oh, my God. You've got to wait. I've got an even better story about Five. It involves coming out of a house in Maidstone at 4 a.m. in the morning. I'll tell you that tomorrow. Kinsey Schofield, thank you very much. The dodgy early years. Charlie, thank you. When am I seeing you again?
When will I see you
again? Just remember, as you head off, Charlie, today, Andy Burnham wants you to have hope in your heart. Are you believing? Have you got hope in your heart?
Oh, every time I see you. That's
God,
all it is.
I don't feel the same about you. News at 7 next.
Britain has in some respects been the world's most successful country. It's given us the world's common language, the mother of parliaments, the Industrial Revolution, the emancipation of minorities, and yet I think there has been this besetting spirit of defeatism and declinism. People like Margaret Thatcher and Tony Blair are exceptions to this. Just contrast, within 48 hours of the invasion of the Falklands, the Royal Navy could assemble some 40 ships to sail to the South Atlantic. Now it takes 2 weeks to deploy a single destroyer to Cyprus.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
got some breaking news here. The Crowborough Army Training Camp could hold male asylum seekers all the way until 2030. Good. After the Home Office claimed it would only be for 12 months. Not much ambition involved in that, is there, in terms of solving the migrant crisis?
Absolutely, and the way that the Labour government gaslit the public when the migrants were first moved in there, saying, you know, you guys are absolutely being mad. Crowborough is a quiet, leafy town in East Sussex. These people, you can see, have been pushed to their absolute limit. They're not the types that you usually see protesting about this sort of thing. But that town has been absolutely desecrated.
You're ruining the country. Get Keir Starmer out. Look, England's back. You're useless. Labour Party's useless.
I love our country. And one of the things about our country is good manners. Not very British.
What Labour advisor thought she wasn't going to be heckled at a petrol station in Leeds? Do these politicians actually ever get out and understand what it's like for real working class people? I thought it was British to exercise a right to free speech. That's what Keith Stalin told Trump. That's what White Van Man was exercising yesterday to Richard III. Oh yes, I remember. We're not really allowed our right to free speech in case we criticise the government.
You can't blame people so many decades away from you for the chaos that has been caused by Labour.
This is cheap politics, isn't it, Syrian?
Well, it's stupid politics. I mean, who raised national insurance on part-time workers? Labour. Who's been the stupid people that have wandered down the road and increased taxes on businesses and on individuals? Labour.
A lot of people get very frustrated, especially when the government says, oh, free school meals, you know, for every kid, not just the kids who really need them, free bus passes, free this, free that. None of it's free. It's subsidised and paid for by the taxpayer. And we're in this constant situation where the government's answer to everything is tax us a bit more, take more of our money, and then give some more of it away generously. It's our sodding money they're giving away.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it's either someone else's money today, another taxpayer, or even worse, it's the money from our future selves.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back and welcome along. This is Talk, of course, the home of common sense and the home of the alarm clock Brits. Welcome to the show for Wednesday. It's breakfast. Whatever you're doing, don't know where you are. What are you doing? Are you heading out? Are you at work? Are you on the way? Are you sat in a traffic jam? Are you trying to get the kids out of the bathroom? Let us know what you're up to. As ever, your views on the day's news always welcome. 0344 499 1000. Damon G-Spot has returned. It's like the return of the prodigal child. He's back. Sweaty top lip, slight nervous disposition, the Voldemort of the breakfast show. G-Spot, as we call him, because we can never find him. But he's arrived, and there's a degree of madness that has return. It's like Starmer saying, I demand the return of the sausages. I demand the return of the G-Spot. If you're tuning in, you won't know what that means. You can also text us 87222. Start your message with the word talk. What are you waking up to? You're waking up to the news that, well, you look at the front page of the Daily Mail. Indefensible, they say. Every single newspaper covering this story. Yesterday, Starmer finally, after months of flailing around, published his defence plan, investment defence plan. Let's not forget that the build-up to this, which has taken so long, cost him his Defence Secretary, John Healey, resigning a couple of weeks ago, saying, you haven't got what it takes to find the money, and in fact pointed the finger at the Treasury and saying, you don't care about the defence of this nation. In broadest terms, the Ministry of Defence wanted 28 billion. Starmer, in sort of self-congratulatory style, whilst cuddling Reeves, yesterday stood up and said, I'm giving you 15 billion, and then went on this sort of rant about how he was saving the nation and this would be his legacy. Have a listen, have a watch.
We are already delivering the biggest sustained increase in defence spending since the 1980s. £270 billion over the spending review period. And I can announce today that under the Defence Investment Plan, we are increasing this by a further £15 billion, setting a new record of spending almost £300 billion over the next 4 years to back our armed forces and strengthen our national security.
There's so much I want to say about this, but let's cut the facts down out of that figure. The MOD, because Starmer's only giving them 15 billion when they needed nearer 30, will have to make £10 billion worth of cuts to even make it work. So an incredibly stretched armed forces. Firstly, they're going to have to make £10 billion worth of cuts. Secondly, the figure he talked there, we've made £300 billion over the next 4 or 5 years. We spend more than that on benefits in 1 year, and if you had a brain cell in your head, Starmer, and the person that's following you, you'd cut that to defend this nation. The thing that's caused real consternation this morning, and it's not that I'm conflicted. I care about my country. There's a slight sort of... Basically, of the 15 billion he's given the MOD, he can only afford 10, which means that when Andy Burnham grabs his job in 3 weeks, Andy Burnham starts on the back foot and has to find 5 billion. I'm conflicted because I can sort of understand him giving the middle digit to Burnham, but what I know that means is that Burnham and probably Mad Miliband, who's going to be the Chancellor, will only raise that, ladies and gentlemen, by increasing your taxes. Andy Burnham is, I think, very soon going to realise that the view from the cheap seats is a lot easier than the view from the big seat. Morning, Paul.
Good morning. If you've not already done it, can you get hold of the Twitter handle at number 10 North and start tweeting some inspirational socialist ideological quotes, maybe a few images from North Korea, and general good ideas of how to spaff people's tax up the wall?
Many people are angry about Andy Burnham before you arrive. We'll say a very good morning. I love this man being on the show. Should have been the Prime Minister. I say it every week because I mean it. Sir Ian Duncan-Smith, former Conservative Party leader. A very good morning, sir. How are you?
Morning, Jeremy. Yep, very well. Not happy, though, because I was in the chamber for the defence statement yesterday, and it was full of holes. Full of holes. I mean, you had 2 resignations because they'd got within 0.1% of nowhere. And this time, he's basically come up with the same. And all through the statement, this was the thing that was really peculiar. All through the statement, the new Defence Secretary kept saying, no, don't worry, this is for the next spending review. How can you make a statement about defence spending and know there is a huge chunk of it that isn't even in the spending plan because they haven't figured out where it's coming from?
I mean, to me, it sums up, I have to say, Ian, in a moment for me, how completely and utterly incapable Starmer was of being the Prime Minister of this country, because I've said it again and again. The first rule, I guess, the first one of 2 rules of any government is to protect its inhabitants, its population and whatever. This man went on about how he was spending 300 billion on defence over the next 4 years. We spent 332 billion on benefits. Why has he, or why will Burnham, it seems not, have the courage, the balls, or in fact the knowledge that the people want them to do something about welfare and spend it on defending our country? It's beyond me.
Yeah, well, this is the whole problem for Labour. And it's going to be the whole problem for Andy Burnham, as and when he takes over. This sort of great idea of a Messiah coming down from the north to deliver Labour from their woes, because he's not Starmer, will last all of about 5 minutes. In fact, I saw today that there's no particular bounce for him. Why? Because the reality for the British public is higher taxes, okay, higher spending on welfare, and unable to defend ourselves. And also, at the end of the day, basically lying about the state of the economy. And this is the whole point. Yesterday was an appalling nonsense, because you come to that dispatch box to tell us that we are now going to spend. We now know that their own plan to reach 3% of GDP by 2030 has gone out. The NATO requirement, de minimis, that is the very least you could spend, should at 2035 be at 3.5%. And they're never going to reach that.
Never.
So we are now at the bottom of the league of expenditure on defence of just about every country in Europe. Even the small countries will be spending as a proportion far more than we are. Germany's heading for 3.7%. Poland is heading for 9%, and we are having this pathetic row. And why? Because welfare spending does need now to be reduced, and you can reduce it by getting people back to work in key areas who say they have depression, anxiety, ADHD. These areas, plus some others, you'll be able to reduce that bill by the middle 20 billions by the time you get through this. That's where this support needs to come from. Getting people back to work and finding the savings for defence particularly, but for other things too, will be the key. And they are not even prepared to discuss that in this particular spending envelope.
Well, when we didn't speak when it was on, but when the Messiah of the North, who, by the way, I've got to ask you this, Serene, because we're doing a little thing this morning on the show. I don't know if you saw his little message from the back of the cab. Did you see that at all?
I didn't see it. I've just seen a picture in your.
Well, I'm gonna play it to you, and I want you to take away from this as a senior politician. I want to ask you at the end if this gives you hope in your heart, Sir Ian Duncan Smith. Have a watch.
I left the north again, I travelled south again. Well, there's a bit of a Smiths lyric there for you, but I'm back in London. After the speech, pleased with how number 10 North has gone down. You know, what it'll mean in future is that everybody doesn't have to come down here to have a serious conversation with the government. If you think about it, a North Pole to the South Pole, it'll just make the country feel more balanced. I hope you're excited by it. I'm certainly excited by it. The whole idea is number 10 North is a conduit to get power out into the country, every single part of it, and get growth going everywhere. So yeah, come on everyone, get on board with it, and let's make it happen. Good growth in every postcode, hope in every heart. That's our mission.
Sir Ian Duncan Smith, a politician, ex-military man, and somebody who should have been Prime Minister. What do you make of that? Have you got hope in your heart, Ian?
No, because the essentials of the government haven't changed.
No.
This is a government that was meant to come in and back up defence. We are facing the greatest threats we've faced now since the 1930s.
Yep.
China's military spending is massive, on the rise. Russia is at war, having tried to invade Ukraine, and there's now talk about 2030, 31. They will be in a position to have a go at other countries in Europe. You've got North Korea, which is part of this whole process, threatening now sub-launch nuclear missiles at the United States. You know, this goes on. Iran is still there, and it's still threatening, and it undermines us all the time because the government never did sanction the IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, who work on our streets here in the UK, fostering huge amounts of extremism, paying for it, and creating this terrible nonsense that we've got going on with these marches. All of this is what he's going to inherit, and a budget that simply doesn't work. Now, you can flutter your eyelashes as much as you like. You can sit in taxis saying, here I'm on the way south, but I'm going up to the north. Literally, I think for most of the British public, they're going to turn around and say, if you go up to the north, keep going, because it's no use to you if you can't solve these key problems, which is we are bust in this country.
Is there any part of you, when the speech was muted first the other day, and I wanted, look, I'm a patriot, I want our country to be in a much different place to where it's at. I thought to myself that any good political advisor, Ian, would have said to Burnham, you've got massive political capital. The Labour Party has parachuted you in the Parliamentary Labour Party because they didn't have the talent or they believe in the words that you say. I would have thought at that moment you would have the power. If you go and, as you do in your constituency, knock on the doors, if anybody's being honest, they will tell you 3 or 4 things. They will say, you need to stop the boats. They will say, we need to do something about a welfare bill that is completely and utterly destroying our public services because we're spending money on many, I'm afraid, feckless and lazy people, not the genuine ones. And they will also say, energy bills continue to rise. The truth of the matter is net zero is a stupid policy that's spending billions, achieving something that nobody else seems to care about. And we've got this North Sea, so you know what, mate? Why don't you start drilling? You might add into that, this is just a personal thing, any government with a moral compass would call a national inquiry into the grooming/rape gang inquiry, and there's a story in that today. But I thought somebody would have whispered in his ear, not detailed, just touch upon one of those. Not a word, Ian, at all. Nothing. Nothing.
This is a game being played out in Labour ranks by Labour, in which the public are excluded. You know, this game about the North and the South, fine, great. You know, nobody minds if you want to go up and be somewhere else from London. That's not the point. The point is, what are you going to do when you stop traveling?
Yeah.
You know, the reason why we're in trouble is that because businesses now are no longer investing. Why? Because the tax level on them is so great that they can hardly afford to keep their businesses running. National insurance charges have walloped British business, which is why we're in this predicament. And also, taxes on individuals have gone up as well, which is why people really begin to question what's the point of being at work when others who are out of work can get more money than they do, you know, going out and working hard. All of this stuff has happened on Labour's watch. And all I would say is that it's all very well and good to debate, you know, just exactly where you're going to be. But the question is, what are you going to do about these key problems? Defence right now, yesterday, has been underfunded dramatically. They wanted 28 billion. They needed it. For you look what's going on in the rest of the world, and they haven't. They haven't even got the 15 billion that he said. We now discover this morning it's only about 10 billion when it comes down to it, which is nowhere near what the defence forces need. Oil and gas. We refuse to drill in the North Sea. Meanwhile, we buy oil and gas from Norway, who are drilling in the same spot. I mean, and we pay extra for it because we're buying it in rather than doing it ourselves.
That makes no sense to man. That makes no sense to anybody in layman's terms. No. Somebody said to me the other day, and listen, you do a job, I do a job. It's like having something, it's like having treasure in your garden, but because you don't upset the friends of the earth, you're not going to dig it up. And the bloke next door's burrowing under your fence and then leaning over and going, "Would you like to buy that?" It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
I mean, it's quite mad. And the whole thing, so this is a government that came in with no plan.
Yeah.
And he is leaving Starmer with absolutely no plan for his successor. His successor seems to be obsessed with the idea of presentation and not about the realities. No statements at all yesterday about any of the spending plans. We don't even know whether he was informed, by the way, of the defence spending plan in detail, because the Secretary of State refused to answer the question, has Andy Burnham seen and approved these plans? Well, if he has seen them and approved them, then the first decision he makes when he comes in to be Prime Minister is to try and hide a missing $5 billion from the defence budget. Well, if he was briefed about that, then all I can say to him is, you've got to do a lot better, because you cannot lie to the British public about this. This is where the problem arises. We have tough choices, but the idea you're going to fill that gap by more taxes on the British public or on business is absurd. And who was sitting next to the Defence Secretary yesterday throughout all of this? Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor.
Not for long.
Who sat mouthing and muttering through the whole single statement when it discovered, of course, that she'd given them no extra money really at all. And what the Defence Secretary previously resigned for, and his minister, is now exactly the same as what they pretty much presented to us yesterday, but they tried to hide the $5 billion from us. And that is what the government is doing. And if Andy Burnham knows anything at all about this, he should apologise and say either he wasn't told or he was told, but he couldn't care less because he's too busy travelling in a taxi.
I couldn't agree more. And just very quickly, before we let you go, Serene, barely a poll bounce this morning. So John Curtis here before 8. A YouGov poll overnight. Up a couple of points, Labour to 20. Tories at 20, climbing a bit. The Reform down to 24. There hasn't been the Burnham bounce, but we should acknowledge the Reform seems to be bottoming out a little bit, but they're still leading. That's 330-something polls. What do you make of Kemi recently in her performances? Do you think that people are beginning to listen to her, Ian?
Yeah, I do. I find lots of people who, you know, may or may not have decided to vote Conservative, but they'll all say the one thing that they really get now is Kemi, and particularly at the dispatch box, where she has taken Starmer apart. And I have to say she'll do the same for Burnham, because at the end of all of this, what she understands is all your sums have got to add up. If you're going to spend more in certain areas, you've got to know where that money's coming from. And you cannot keep reaching for the tax from the British public and fostering the bill on their backs. What we have to do is recognise where government is going wrong. And she's been very good on the welfare stuff. I've advised her about that. Others have talked to her about it, what you can do. And she talks about this the whole time now, that if you're going to have and we need to, stronger defences, then you're going to have to make sure you reduce that burgeoning welfare budget, which all went wrong during COVID. We should have brought it under control faster. I mean, when I left it, we had the lowest number of workless households since records began. We'd saved some 25 billion. COVID punched a massive hole through all of that, but we have to get it back again, and it's all there to be done. So I think they rather like her. They always say, you know, well, I like that Kemi.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
answer
I
is
spent a bit of time with her the other day at that drinks thing, and I was quite impressed with the calmness. I think, you know, we don't need to disagree, but, you know, I think the brand to many is still toxic, the 14 years, the way it ended. But she's certainly cutting through. And I said to her something that I would say to you. I was very critical for the first year because I heard nothing. And I would be on this show going, but what's happened is she's actually gone away and done the homeworks and come up with things that add up and make sense financially. And that's what right now the British public need, I think. Ian, just one final question. We know you like, well, you admitted this last week. The game tonight, where will you watch it? Will you have a drink in your hand? And what's your prediction, please, Sir Ian Duncan-Smith?
Well, I have been invited to join a group of people from the Centre for Social Justice in central London for a sit-down. How can I say? Because of hot weather, we'll need to have some liquid available to us, so we'll make sure that's the case. Of course, I'll be supporting England. I think the one thing I think about having looked at all the World Cups is that the teams that start slow and build are the ones that end up winning. And I have to say, you know, even though France is scoring loads of goals, the truth is, as he discovers what his best team is, and I think that's the truth, he has to still to figure it out, I think they will gel. They're brilliant in attack. They need to sort out their defence, but it isn't like the rest of the country, I hope. I'm sorry to see Scotland go out because, you know, I'm born in Scotland. I consider myself a Scot. But notwithstanding that, I'll support anybody in the United Kingdom who goes to the World Cup. England, of course, I want to win. So come on, let's get it done and let's move on.
Good man.
But we
Listen,
have a tough draw.
good man. Always great to have.
Brazil, we've got to face Argentina and everything else as well. So.
And imagine the team at Social Justice inviting you for that night out. Have a great night, and thank you so much as ever for being on the show. Sir Ian Duncan-Smith, former Conservative Party leader. 22 minutes past 7 o'clock. You're waking up to Talk Breakfast. It is the home, of course, of common sense. If you want to be on 0344 499 1000, you text to 87222. Morning, Mick.
Morning, Jez. Mick in sunny Staffordshire. Happy birthday, fella, for next Tuesday, obviously. See you next Tuesday. Anyway, mate, I was in the police in 2015 when it started to fall apart. And that was at a time when the exec, the ACPO officers, started to decide that they're not going to do certain things, and they delegated everything to the lower ranks. They became out of touch, no experience, disrespected, and incompetent, and that's led to what we've got today in the police. That's exactly what the government is, and it's becoming more and more incompetent the more they delegate. They delegate because they haven't got a clue what they're doing. So Burnham, whatever his name is, clearly hasn't got the experience or the confidence to run the country, so he's going to delegate that function to everybody else. Catch you later, Jez.
Brilliant. Barnum, that was a musical about a guy who was good at trapeze. It was with Michael Crawford. Do you want to hear the best? Do you know Michael Crawford? He was a massive star, fan to the beginning. He started life as Frank Spencer. Do you know that? I got a bit of trouble. No. I could do a fantastic Frank Spencer, but that's another story altogether. 723 0344 499 1000. Jez, Sir Starmer left a defence black hole of £4.7 million. But one good thing is he's also, frankly, screwed Reeves because she will be blamed by, this is true, blamed by Burnham. Thank you, Bill. Let's say a very good morning to the former head of the British Army to get his take on what many are quite rightly calling indefensible actions yesterday by Keir Starmer. Lord Richard Dannett, a very good morning, sir. How are you?
Jeremy, good morning. I'm very well, thank you. Nice to join you.
And you, my friend. It screams out of the front of the Daily Mail, indefensible. And because I try and do it in layperson's terms, I'll lay it out once more for people just tuning in. Yesterday, the long-awaited defence plan from Keir Starmer was announced. In basic terms, the military wanted 28 billion. He eventually stood up and said, I'll give you 15. The first point to make is that the Ministry of Defence, bless them, with stretched resources left, right and centre, that means they're going to have to make £10 billion worth of cuts, so even worse of a situation we're in. He trumps this, we're spending 300 billion on defence in 4 years, which is less in 4 years than we're spending in 12 months on welfare. We're nowhere near the 3% that NATO and Trump are talking about GDP. And then we discover that the 15 billion he's promised, Richard, he can only afford 10, and he's left a £5 billion black hole for the man who screwed him over and got his job. Now, whilst I understand bitterness, our country, surely, if you're Prime Minister, defending your people is your #1 priority, my friend.
Yes, I completely agree. And what we discovered over the last 24 hours with that 5 billion missing and still to be found is that it would seem that the outgoing Prime Minister and the incoming Prime Minister and the Chancellor, somewhere in the middle of all that, are just playing politics with our defence. And I think it's quite outrageous. I mean, I think that the underlying point here is that when this government came to power 2 years ago, they commissioned perfectly reasonably a strategic defence review, which published its report a year ago this month, and it outlined all the threats to our security in that report, and had 62 recommendations as to how to meet that. Then this defence investment plan was supposed to be published last autumn, and that was the device whereby the money required to meet those 62 recommendations would be found. And the Prime Minister endorsed it, the government endorsed it, John Healey, the then Secretary of State for Defence, endorsed it, and it was assumed that the Chancellor would do her work and come up with the money required to make this country safe. Well, it dragged on and dragged on and dragged on until yesterday, and then we find the shenanigans that have been visited on us. But the thing, a couple of things that I find really distressing is that only back in February this year, Keir Starmer on the grand stage at the Munich Security Conference said we will be spending 3% of GDP by 2029. Well, even with these made-up figures of yesterday, by 2029 it's only going to be 2.7%, and it now looks as if 5 billion of that has got to be found from the next budget. And that's where he is, as you said, screwed over Andy Burnham.
But it's really interesting for me, Richard, to and I've said this to you before, massive supporter of the armed forces, and I'll talk to you about what I think was the worst part of Starmer, and there were many. What I don't understand is, seemingly in the Labour ranks, because when Burnham did his sort of speech in Manchester the other day, no mention of defence spending, no mention of many things that many people in this country are concerned about. Successive governments have cut back under the belief that there's a Cold War, and we are now in a position where the world is probably at its most dangerous, and we are not indefensible, but we are stretched. And to me, it's inconceivable that anybody in that position doesn't understand that. I know elected politicians can't be forced, but I think it's absolutely disgraceful. And the anger and the simmering feeling amongst the many people that contact this show is exactly what you said. You haven't done something that is essentially one of the first and most important rules of government. And unless, and this debate is not going to go away for Andy Burnham, who will be as weak-willed and as lily-livered as Keir Starmer, you cannot possibly expect the British people, with the way the world is, to accept that we're spending more on welfare than we are receiving in tax. They will not accept, the Labour Party, that you can have a debate about welfare, Lord Donat, and still be committed to the genuine people, but it's about time that we got our priorities right and said to the feckless and lazy, you are not going to take advantage because our defence of our nation is more important.
Well, Jeremy, you're absolutely right. But I think the fact of the matter is the cat is out of the bag now, big time, about the state of our defences. Yes, of course, successive governments since the end of the Cold War took peace dividends because, by and large, the world looked more peaceful. But my goodness, it's changed, not just in the last 4 years since Russia attacked Ukraine, but 2014 when they first incurred into Ukraine. And many of us have been watching a resurgent Russia for quite some time. But now I think up and down the country, people actually know that there are threats to our security, and that it's got to be taken seriously. And yes, you're absolutely right. The welfare budget is way out of hand and dwarfs, frankly, the defence budget. And if Andy Burnham thinks that this problem is going to go away, it's not. The people up and down the country and the defence lobby, people like me, commentators and analysts and people who've been there and done it, we're going to keep the pressure on because we know that this country must be kept safe. The people of this country need to be kept safe. The territorial integrity of this country needs to be kept safe. Our communications, our gas supplies, all those things need to be kept safe. And to do that, it needs more money. And frankly, we've got to get to this 3% by the end of this decade and 3.5% by the middle of the next decade. That's what NATO wants. That's what our nation requires. And frankly, that's our due to play our part in the collective security of Europe. And my goodness, we've always been a leader on security in Europe. But now people are looking at us and saying, what's happened to Britain? What's happened to the UK? They're just not pulling their weight anymore. Well, we should be. We've got to get off our backsides, cut the spending on things that, frankly, are nice to have and put money on what is essential. And that's the security of the people and the security of this country. There's no shortcuts. It's cash. It's cash, and quite quickly, because the people in our armed forces, they've got the concepts, they've got the innovation, we've got the skills, but we can't make the progress until we've got the resources. And that's the challenge. Keir Starmer ducked it. He's lost his job. Andy Burnham, if he ducks it, he won't last either.
I was going to say, is there hope amongst the defence lobby? And I don't want to be cynical. I mean, can we just be honest about Andy Burnham? The leadership hustings haven't even opened yet, and he's already being briefed by the cabinet. It's the most done deal I've ever heard in my life. But the truth is Burnham going to have the balls, excuse the French, to stand up to his backbenchers and say, you lot always revolt, but there's too many people gaming the welfare system, and I'm going to make those savings and spend it on defending the nation? I don't think he will, do you?
Well, I don't know, is a short and truthful answer. I hope he does have the courage to see the right thing.
And me.
But I think we'll just have to wait and see. But I think one thing I can assure him is that if he does duck the issue, the noise will just ramp up. The volume will be turned up from the defence lobby. The volume will be turned up by right-thinking people up and down the country. And he will be putting his own job, his own future on the line, just in the same way that, like Starmer, he's continuing to risk the security of this country. It's not acceptable. It's got to be sorted out because the British people and their security comes first.
I'll tell you something else that I want to ask you before I let you go, and I'm delighted as ever, Richard, to have you on. In my mind, and there are many things, but in my mind, and this is no disrespect to farmers or waspy women or pensioners, the most disgusting thing about Keir Starmer's premiership is the Troubles legacy bill. The sheer horror, audacity, hatred that comes from saying to ex-servicemen and women, thank you for 30 years ago fighting for this country in the Troubles of Northern Ireland, but we're going to prosecute you. You better wait for a tap on your door. And just while you're feeling bad about yourself, I'm going to give immunity to the IRA. I was brought up around the military. That makes me sick to the stomach, Lord Dana, absolutely sick to the stomach. Do you believe that Andy Burnham will shelve this? I've never known a least popular, quite rightly, least popular piece of legislation in my life.
Well, Jeremy, you're absolutely right to put your finger on it and shine a light on that issue. It's an issue that's been concerning many of us for years and years. I managed to get a debate in the House of Lords back in 2013 on this issue, and that's 13 years ago, and it still continues to drag on. Let me tell you that the last day when I was in office as Chief of the General Staff back in 2009, the last appointment in my office was two investigators from the Police Service of Northern Ireland coming to see me, to talk to me about actions by my platoon in Belfast in 1973. I mean, that is just so ridiculous. And I told them it was ridiculous. And it continues. And frankly, legislation has got to be found, procedures have got to be found to stop what are now old men, and I'm 75, so I think I'm coming into that category, from being harassed in this kind of way. It is not acceptable. And if we don't deal with it, young people will think, well, I'm not going to bother to put the King's uniform on and fight for this country if I'm going to get stabbed in the back. It's got to be sorted out. Will Burnham have the courage to do it? I don't know. But it's another challenge for him, certainly challenge.
Listen, always fantastic to have you on, Lord Dana, and it's a fight to end that and to get more money for defence that this station certainly will continue to back. And we thank you so much indeed for being on. Former head of the British Army, Lord Richard Dannett there, 25 to 8. We're live across the UK. What are you waking up to? Well, you're waking up to the news that Keir Starmer, in one of his final acts yesterday, released his defence plan spending. They wanted 28, the MOD, just to stand still. He gave them 15, so they're going to have to make £10 billion worth of cuts. And whilst he was standing there talking about legacy and everything, it then transpired that of the 15 billion he'd given, he can only afford 10, which means that Burnham, the pretender, Mr. Eyelashes, on his way down south in taxi, he is going to have to find 5 billion from a starting stand spot. Many people are thinking that Starmer's done him for one. There we go. Listen, the other bit in the news, of course, today, millions of you will leave work early to cheer England on tonight at the Democratic Republic of Congo first World Cup knockout match. I want to hear from you. They reckon 3.5 million gallons of beer will be drunk, probably around this office, to be honest. But TalkSport, everything you need to know. Sunsport, everything you need to know. We will have loads on that. I just want to know, are you watching? Where are you watching? How early are you leaving work? I'm leaving at 10. I'm not going to. I can't watch the football. The kids will be going, Daddy, Daddy, can we have Peppa Pig on? I'm thinking, for one night only, I might put my kids in care. Morning, Steve.
Morning, Jezza. Steve from Manchester. I've just watched that taxi driver speech by Andy Burnham. What is that? That was the biggest pile of waffle I've ever heard. The man's a muppet. And quoting Smiths just depresses me. Jesus. Anyway, great show, mate. Keep up the good work.
You've got to be single-minded about your plan. You've got to follow through and not back down. The geography helps countries like Australia, but also the UK. I mean, across Europe, you know, they look the other way. I think unintentionally, all those years ago, one regulation changes in a province in Germany, and all of a sudden you get a wave of mass migration. The thing about immigration is this: if you get it wrong, the consequences are generational.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Welcome to Wednesday. We're not spending enough on defence. Millions of you will leave work early to watch the World Cup. And Andy Burnham's return has not given Labour the bounce. Before 8 o'clock this morning, Sir John Curtis, Professor Curtis, I mean, he's a legend, everything about polling, he says not much difference in the eyebrows took the job. However, yesterday, Andy Burnham released on his personal, what's it called, Instagram, a bit of a little video from a taxi. And there's just a bit at the end that I know, ladies and gentlemen, if you can just take this as a positive step forward. Find hope in your heart, people. Just look at this. It's inspirational. This is inspirational.
I left the north again. I travelled south again. Well, there's a bit of a Smiths lyric there for you, but I'm back in London. After the speech, pleased with how number 10 North has gone down. You know, what it'll mean in future is that everybody doesn't have to come down here to have a serious conversation with the government. If you think about it, a North Pole to the South Pole, it'll just make the country feel more balanced. I hope you're excited by it. I'm certainly excited by it. The whole idea is number 10 North is a conduit to get power out into the country, every single part of it, and get growth going everywhere. So yeah, come on everyone, get on board with it and let's make it happen. Good growth in every postcode, hope in every heart. That's our mission.
Sorry, I'm sorry. That was cynical and unjust of me. Growth in every postcode and hope in your heart. Is there hope in your heart? Are you dreaming? Is there hope in your heart? I pray. No, there's not, because you won't attack the benefits bill and spend more on defence, you muppet. Morning, Perry.
Morning, Jeremy. I don't think there's such thing as this Burnham bounce. I think it's all just left-wing propaganda press. I mean, yeah, all week I've been looking on social media about how Labour have decimated reforms in the polls. You know, 43% of people now support Andy Burnham as the new Prime Minister, only 23% support Nigel Farage. You know, I think it would help if they wouldn't just be asking his family and friends, because I don't see any Burnham bounce. Like, nonsense.
Nice, happy early morning listener to the Jeremy Club, but it's true. I keep saying it. I want more from somebody who's walked into the most powerful job in this country, not uninvited, but by hook or by crook. What do you make of it, my friends? 0344 499 1000, text to 87222. We've got breaking news as well this hour. Ofgem, of course, the energy sort of regulator, has announced in the last few minutes that the price cap will increase, ready for this, millipede, by 13%. That's around £18 a month, taking the annual bill for a typical household using gas and electricity to £1,862. Lucy Powell, the Deputy Prime Minister, agrees that making Ed Miliband Chancellor would be good for Andy Burnham and good for the country. This is a man who stood up in a general election himself and got battered by the British people. This is a man who, as Energy Secretary, told us we need fresh new ways to have energy and we'll lower your bills. Bills have consistently gone up under Labour. Another 13% this morning. This mad, and I can't get my head around this mad obsession with wind and energy plans that are no good. They might seem nice, although they look pretty crap in the countryside. In my mind, they don't provide enough energy. And much like the drilling, what do we have to do? We then have to buy our energy from somebody else at a greater cost. It's total and utter madness. Harry Wilkinson, head of policy at the Global Warming Policy Foundation. I am getting to the end of I don't understand why this man is allowed to get away with this, my friend.
People will be staggered when Ed Miliband told them back at the election that bills would come down by £300.
Yeah.
Now we're seeing these steady rises. Now it's important to separate, you know, what we've been seeing with the Straits of Hormuz. We see ups and downs in the gas price, and that does generate a certain amount of volatility. But underlying that are consistent increases that are being generated by the policies that Ed Miliband is choosing to put in place. And that's a radical plan to have zero carbon electricity by 2030. That means he's had to radically expand the amount of wind power that we're building. That means that he's had to overpay for those wind turbines rather than negotiate a good price for British energy bill payers. He's basically had to pay the highest price that he could to make sure that these wind farms still got built. And what we saw in a select committee hearing last year was Chris Norbury, the chief executive of E.ON, told Parliament that even if wholesale gas prices went to zero, bills would still be where they are now in 2030 because of those underlying costs. What does that involve? That's all the extra pylons you have to build to connect those disparate wind turbines up with the national grid. It's the balancing cost to have those backup sources of power when the wind isn't blowing. It's the money we spend on wind turbines when the wind electricity isn't needed because the wind is blowing, but there isn't a source for that demand. So we're creating this incredibly complex system, and we're moving away from a system that was well tailored to our needs. We had large power stations close to the demand where it was needed. Our grid was much simpler.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question? Because we could go round. You speak such sense. I could go round and round in circles trying to justify how mad this whole approach is and how people's bills, again, if you're waking up, Ofgem's latest price cap will be increased by 13%, nearly another 20 quid on your bill. Starmer said they'd come down by 400 before the election. Miliband said they'd come down by 300. The fact is they have risen. Every single day on this show, Harry, somebody says there's liquid gold in the North Sea. That is our money to pay off our bills and bring down energy costs. So stupid is this government. We allow Norway to drill for that oil and gas and sell it back to us. The whole policy is madness. How much would it cost to reopen those drilling lines, to give out those licenses, to get drilling again? Is that something that could happen quickly?
Well, the brilliant thing is it's not even taxpayers or bill payers' money. Companies would put their own money, invest their own money in getting these sites operational, and then they would sell that gas back to us at a cheaper price than suddenly importing LNG from around the world.
So why wouldn't you, if you're in charge of the country's finances, do that for the sake of the fact that you're heavily in debt and you've got this asset? I don't get it.
Well, it's because they have this net zero ideology. They can't embrace a more pragmatic approach, so they have to say, no, we will have none of our own gas. We will pay other countries to import that gas and oil instead. Let's also remember that there could be a gold mine that's way bigger than what's left in the North Sea, and that could be onshore shale gas extraction that could revitalize the urban former industrial heartlands of the north. That's where a lot of this shale gas could be. Now, of course, we don't know if it's going to work. We don't know if that's economically viable to do here in the UK, but we're not even allowed to try. This is what's frustrating.
Is there any part of you at the Global Warming Policy Foundation thinks that Burnham, if he is going to be the next Prime Minister, because, I mean, look, he keeps doing videos from taxis, do you think he'll be any different? Do you think he'll stand up to the Milibands and ditch it and realise that he's screwed financially? Yesterday he left with a black hole in terms of defence. Do you think he will start drilling again, or do you think he's like the rest of the Labour Party?
Well, so far, as we can tell so far, he's keeping his cards close to his chest, but he undoubtedly has a huge decision to make, which is, does he go with this radical net zero agenda with Miliband, or does he actually say, you know, we've got to embrace economic dynamism, we've got to bring bills down for people, we've got to exploit our economic opportunities on our doorstep. And he's actually said that he may need to think again about net zero. Let's hope that he follows through on that. You know, we're certainly hoping that he does.
Well, I'm hoping he does, but the really sad and dangerous and worrying rumour is that he could move Mad Miliband from the Energy Department, where he's caused complete bedlam, and make him the Chancellor, which means I think we'll all have to leave the country. But, Harry, mate, it's a story that never goes away. I always say it to you, and I say it every single time. Somebody said to me 2 years ago, when you get to 2030 and you've got to net zero, what happens next? You get a medal? It's ridiculous. It's a waste of money. And the British public, they know it. It seems politicians don't. Thank you, Harry Wilkinson, Head of Policy at the Global Warming Policy Foundation. Next, Professor John Curtis on how Mr. Eyebrows, Andy Burnham, there's been no bounce except for when the taxi goes over a lock and is... Never mind, back in 3.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 10 to 8. This is Jeremy Carlin, Talk Breakfast. Sir John Curtis, Professor Sir John Curtis, in just a tick. The Burnham bounce, it's not happening. Morning, Phil.
Good morning, Jeremy. Well, the amount of money that this Mr. Burnham decides to spend, the only thing he's going to be bouncing is cheques.
Brilliant. That's my listeners. That's what they give me. We say a very good morning to Professor Sir John Curtis, polling expert and Professor of Politics at the University of Strathclyde. John, good morning. How are you?
Fine, thank you. How's yourself, Jeremy?
Good, my friend. Interesting times. You know, we've debated long and hard about Burnham on this station. We've talked about the coup. We've talked about the defence issues yesterday. You've got some interesting news. A YouGov poll overnight. Was this on the back of the Great Reset speech in Manchester, or was that before that?
I think it was done on Sunday and Monday, if I remember rightly. So a lot of it...
Before the speech that inspired nobody?
Well, let's see. What we can say, Jeremy, we've so far had 4 opinion polls that have been conducted since Keir Starmer announced his resignation. And in a sense, that's all that's happened so far. And we're currently in this interregnum between Keir Starmer announcing his resignation and the expectation that Andy Burnham is going to be crowned as his successor as Labour leader and therefore as Prime Minister later on this month, probably about the 20th of July. Those 4 polls, well, I mean, one of them did show a 6-point increase in Labour support, but that was a poll which already had Labour as low as 15 points, just simply put it back up to 21 and basically much more in line with other polls. The other 3 polls, 2 increases of 2 points, 1 increase of 1. So there's a slight rise in Labour support, but not, a fundamental change in the political weather. Of course, I guess what Labour will be hoping is that when indeed Andy Burnham becomes leader, that there will be more of a bounce. There is so-called hypothetical polling out there asking people how you would vote if indeed Andy Burnham were to become Prime Minister. One of those most recently suggests that maybe there might be another 3 or 4 points for Labour. But I think it's been pretty clear from quite a few weeks ago that while Labour might get some benefit, immediate benefit from Mr. Burnham replacing Sir Keir, that it's not going to fundamentally change the political weather. It might mean Labour and Reform are roughly neck and neck with each other, but on its own, the change of leader is not going to rescue the parliamentary careers of many of the 410 Labour MPs who are going to put Mr. Burnham in place of Sir Keir.
Let's talk about Reform, still leading for about the 332nd poll, 25% in these polls. What's your view? Some people are saying the bubble has burst, others are saying no. It's hardened and that will continue. What's your take on it, John?
Well, it's certainly true that there's been a gradual decline in Reform support. It was arrested by their success in the local elections. Now, it is only 4 polls, so I don't think we should rush to judgment. But the 4 polls post the Starmer resignation have Reform at 25%. Before the resignation, they were running at 27%. But if you look at the innards of those polls, it's not immediately obvious that Reform are suddenly losing votes to Labour. If anything, insofar as Labour are gaining ground, it's rather more expensive gaining Liberal Democrats and Green voters. So I think we need to hold our judgment on that. But certainly over the piece, whereas Reform were at 32% at their peak in September of last year, they've certainly been running rather lower more recently. But as you say, still so far ahead in the polls. But I think the point is, if indeed there were to be more of a Burnham bounce, when Mr. Burnham is actually in 10 Downing Street, we might be looking at Labour and Reform at least neck and neck with each other, as opposed to Reform having the clear lead that they have been enjoying now for 12 months. But I mean, this frankly is all rather a speculation. Of course, in the end of the day, what will matter is the extent to which Andy Burnham can, in the eyes of the electorate, to do the job of Prime Minister more effectively than Sir Keir Starmer. And that is inevitably going to be something where judgment will take a little while before we can get to begin to get some clear view.
And just finally, Kemi Badenoch, who I think most people would say is frankly seen as the right person at the wrong time. She's been quite impressive. That's certainly cutting through on a personal level. Any movement for the Tory party, John?
No, it's 19% in these 4 post-resignation polls. It was 19% beforehand. You're absolutely right. Her personal ratings are getting much better. The public are recognising her ability to do PMQs rather well.
Yeah.
It sounds rather good on television in those little packages that all politicians have to be able to do. But so far, she's not been able to turn her improved personal popularity into improved personality for a party. Of course, it's very, very difficult to persuade people that a government that was very heavily rejected by the electorate as a result of its record between 2019 and 2024 should all of a sudden be trusted once again with the reins of office.
John, thank you. Always answer. I just want to ask you one question. I know you're politically equal. Does Andy Burnham's video, The Taxi, where he asks us all to have hope in our heart, have you got hope in your heart this morning, Sir John Curtis?
Well, I think my answer to that is that, Jeremy, that clearly one thing that that Andy Burnham does realise, and he can do to some degree, is indeed to try to emote with people, to try to give them some idea of hope that things might get better. That is certainly something that Keir Starmer was not very good at doing at all. Again, what we saw with the Defence Review presentation yesterday. Now, of course, words are easy. It's delivery that in the end that will matter. But certainly on the word front, Andy Burnham is probably going to be more effective than the current Prime Minister.
Sir John Curtis, polling expert, thank you very much indeed joining us on Talk Breakfast. After 8, Nigel Evans. I just want to share something with you, the pain that I feel. I asked Christian to bring me a spoon. I have a yoghurt. That's what I get. It's wooden. It's not a spoon. It's pathetic. A spoon is supposed to be metal. How am I going to get my yoghurt in my mouth with that? That is what's wrong with this world. That is why Andy Burnham won't get me a proper spoon, because he doesn't care. He will carry on being who he is. That isn't a spoon. That's a piece of... It's ridiculous. And also, where's Tommy? Because the tea's crap. I'm not moaning. I'm just having a bad... I'm joking. 8 o'clock. We'll see you after the news, which is next on Talk to...
Kemi Badenoch, front page of the Mail on Sunday this weekend, ruling out the possibility of any electoral pact with reform.
But you know what? It's difficult to do a deal with a party that gave us net zero and wrote it into law. It's difficult to do a deal with a party that promised to do one thing and gave us the Boris wave. So for me, it's about trust. Very difficult to trust them.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
The question my party is asking now is whether I am best placed to lead us into the next general election. I have heard the answer of my parliamentary party to that question, and I accept that answer with good grace. Every decision I've taken has been about putting the country I love first. That is why I will resign as leader of the Labour Party.
Well, you know what? In the end, he did do the right thing, and there were some achievements, and he's an honourable man, and he cared about public service. Guys, that's not what happened just now. In the last half an hour, Keir Starmer resigned, and he resigned because he was pushed. Most of his issues, most of the things which have damned him from, let's face it, within days, within weeks of him becoming Prime Minister back in July 2024, or of his own making. They were things he chose to do, cutting the winter fuel allowance, damning everybody who wanted to have a public inquiry on the grooming gangs as jumping onto the far-right bandwagon, the two-tier policing after the Southport riots. This man brought it on himself. He was not a good Prime Minister.
There was two things on that manifesto. One was a picture of Keir Starmer and the word change. Well, promise made and promise delivered in that sense. If he's not, let's be honest. But look, I mean, I don't really want to make light of it, but I am cheesed off, Julia, because what we promised in opposition was competence, and it's been anything but. I'm embarrassed. I'm really, truly, honestly, I am embarrassed, because I did think we would be competent. We've not been.
I've no idea whether there'll be a contest or a coronation. But what I do know is the British public have simply had enough of political parties chopping and changing their leaders at will. We vote for somebody in a general election to be our Prime Minister. We expect them to serve their term. And barring ill health or exceptional circumstances, what is going on here, frankly, is reminiscent of a banana republic that has totally devalued the very process of general elections and democracy. We at Reform demand a general.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back or welcome along. This is Talk Breakfast, the home, of course, of common sense, and where your views on the day's news, Alarm Clock Britain, is always welcome. Three ways to contact us. Same number for a call or a voice note, 0344 499 1000. You can text to 87222. Start your message with the word Talk. What are you waking up to on Wednesday, the 1st of July? A pinch and a punch for the... My mother used to say that. Yeah, pinch and a punch for the first of the month. The indefensible screams the Daily Mail, and quite rightly too. It's on every newspaper. Starmer puts Burnham in $5 billion black hole. Front of the Times. The front of the Telegraph, Starmer leaves $5 billion defence black hole. Yesterday, Keir Starmer, after months of promising his defence spending review, stood up at some hangar somewhere in Oxford and said, here's the news, it's fantastic. I'm going to... I've listened to the military, who want 28 billion. Just to stay even, and I'm going to give them 15. So from this sort of 15 figure, which he was sort of very self-congratulatory about and talked about defending the nation and leaving a legacy, first thing I have to tell you is the Ministry of Defence will then have to make over £10 billion worth of cuts from a position where we don't seemingly have the ability to defend ourselves. That's the first thing. Then we discover that he said we're going to be spending 300 billion across 4 years, which is less in 4 years than we spend in 11 months on welfare benefit, because he won't know anything about that. And then the big story, it transpires that the 15 billion he's offered, he can only afford 10, which means that when Burnham, who nicked his job, arrives in Downing Street, he's going to have a $5 billion black hole, which means we'll only make that money up, I suspect, by taxing hard-working Brits like us. It's brilliant, isn't it? Legacy? I don't think so. Other stuff in the news today. Millions of you will finish work early to cheer England on against DR Congo. I just met Andy Goldstein, breakfast presenter on our sister station TalkSport. He's just delivered a chilling... I mean, we're having a week, basically. I don't want to be rude. I said, what do you think tonight, Anne? And he went, We're 1-0 down with 10 minutes to go. We equalise and it goes to penalties. And I'm coming out there thinking, oh, but he's probably right, isn't he? Everybody thinks it's going to be an easy game. Tell us where you'll be watching, what time you're leaving work. Have you actually even bothered going to work today? 0344 499 1000. We talked before the news. No real poll bounce from YouGov with the Burnham takeover. We'll also tell you 2 extraordinary stories and talk about them. This is not true. This is not true. This is not made up. Woke civil servants in the Treasury, that's the Treasury, the people that sort out all the money, have axed maths exams for job applicants because it might put them under pressure. Now, call me old-fashioned and boring, but I would have thought that working in the Treasury you should be able to add up. But then, of course, the Chancellor can't, so maybe that's a prerequisite. And also, this needs talking about. White working-class students are excluded from almost all of Oxbridge diversity scholarships. That, according to a report in the Telegraph today. That's what we're living with. And I moaned before the break. I asked for a spoon to hit my yoghurt. I got that. I've had a couple of comments. Apparently, Mark Dolan, who's brilliant on this show on a Friday, Saturday and Sunday, and far better than me and far taller. He apparently eats his yoghurt with a Bic pen. Or maybe one of his legs, because he's about 8'7". Jane says, Jez, stick your tongue in the yoghurt pot and stop being a bleeding diva. Right, well, I'll get on with that, and let's say a very good morning. Actually, let's say a very good morning to the ex-Deputy Speaker of the House of Commons, while I get a spoon. Good morning, Nigel Evans, how are you?
I'm brilliant, how are you?
How do you eat a yoghurt without a spoon, Nigel?
I think the suggestion earlier on, just put your tongue in it, you'll be fine.
Fantastic. If you're just tuning in, that's the former Deputy Speaker of the House of Commons, Nigel Evans. Somebody's going to cut that. Just put your tongue in it, you'll be fine. Nigel, before we get serious about defence, I want to play the video that has resonated with so many people, because King at North, Andy Burnham, he did his speech on Tuesday. We haven't been able to talk about it on Monday, whatever day it was. And people were waiting for, you know, how are you going to stop the boats? How are you going to cut welfare and spend more on defence? And how, in the name of God, are you going to cut energy bills, which are up 13% this morning, Ofgem announcing that new price cap? Are you going to drill? Are you going to announce a new national grooming gang inquiry? Nothing. Just this up north thing, the number 10 of the north. Now, I want us to feel good about our lives today, so I want you to watch this little clip wherever you are in England. Turn up the radio, watch this on YouTube, because this, ladies and gentlemen, is your new Prime Minister. Take it away, AB.
I left the north again, I travelled south again. Well, there's a bit of a Smiths lyric there for you, but I'm back in London. After the speech, pleased with how number 10 North has gone down. You know, what it'll mean in future is that everybody doesn't have to come down here to have a serious conversation with the government. If you think about it, a North Pole to the South Pole, it'll just make the country feel more balanced. I hope you're excited by it. I'm certainly excited by it. The whole idea is number 10 North is a conduit to get power out into the country, every single part of it, and get growth going everywhere. So yeah, come on everyone, get on board with it, and let's make it happen. Good growth in every postcode, hope in every heart. That's our mission.
Is there hope in your heart? Are you singing? Morning, Sean.
Morning, Jeremy. Sean from Grimsby, listening to Andy Burnham, the idiot, telling us that we should have hope in a heart. I mean, he's not a serious politician. He's just like the rest of the Labour politicians. I don't want hope in my heart, mate. I want cheaper energy bills. I want to pay lower taxes. I want decent jobs for my kids when they get older. I want to look after our forces and our ex-soldiers instead of prosecuting them. I want a nice free £250,000 house in Shropshire where I can move in for nothing. That's what I want, mate. What a joke this lot are. Great show, mate.
All I can say, Sean, is you might hope for that, but you ain't bleeding getting it. Nigel, honestly, you've been around the block. Again, that doesn't sound great. 30 years. I know this coronation chicken, see what I did there, has happened quite... it's quite a coup. That's not what people want, Nigel. They want exactly what Sean just said.
Yeah, I call him the Prime Minister anoint, because it's become quite clear that nobody in the Labour Party is going to put up against Andy Burnham. And it is an incredible coup. You've got to remember that Andy Burnham wasn't a member of Parliament at the time of the writing of the last manifesto. He's now inherited this manifesto. if he deviates off it at all, then surely there's got to be a clamour for an early general election. He needs to seek his own fresh mandate. I think it is appalling. I texted Kemi last week and I said, there is every chance that Andy Burnham will become Prime Minister, and in the interval between now and him becoming Prime Minister, he won't be taking any questions from anybody. And Kemi texted back and she said, oh, but he's making a speech on Monday, so let's see. Well, we now know what happened, Jeremy.
Yeah.
He banned all questions from any journalists.
He banned Quentin Letts, the greatest, the sketch writer. You can't ban Quentin.
No, the great Quentin Letts. I mean, an absolute superb diarist who writes it as he sees it. And so there is now every chance, because, as you know, the House of Commons will be going into recess just before the anointment becomes absolutely secure. And there's the, whatever it is it the kissing of rings or hands with the king? And then he becomes Prime Minister. And he will have achieved this without answering any questions from either the media or anybody else. I mean, it is absolutely, if this happened in another country somewhere, perhaps like the Democratic Republic of the Congo, we would have just gone, oh, well, it's the DRC, isn't it? But no, this is happening in the United Kingdom. I've got American friends who are asking me, how could this possibly happen? And then I'm going to take half an hour out of my time to explain to them the British Constitution.
I couldn't agree more, and you're absolutely right. If he gets made Prime Minister around the 17th or 18th, Parliament will recess, and he won't have to face the elected representatives of the United Kingdom before the beginning of September. Let's talk about yesterday. I mean, I've spent 2 years digging at Keir Starmer, and quite rightly so. I thought yesterday this defence plan that he announced that cost him John Healey and cost him Al Carnes and has basically cost him his premiership, the final nail in the coffin, just about summed up, Nige, entirely what's wrong with this delusional man. You need 28 billion to move forward. That's what the military asked for. He has delayed and dithered and eventually gives them 15, which isn't enough, not in terms of NATO, not in terms of Trump, not in terms of updating our equipment. It means that the MOD have to make £10 billion worth of cuts, for God's sake, on what we've already not got. And then it transpires the 15 he's offered, he can only afford 10 and he's leaving Burnham a black hole. The first thing I want to say is, oh, the irony. All I heard 2 years ago from Bleating Reeves and Stroppy Starmer was, we can't do anything, there's an 11 billion black hole left by the Tories. Whether that was true or not, I don't know. He's doing exactly the same. What, to sabotage the man that stabbed him in the back? Maybe. But how does that make him look in terms of the country? He hasn't got a legacy. He'll be... I'm sorry, it's appalling, Nigel, appalling that no Labour MP or politician, and Burnham's the same, will face up to the reality. You need to cut the welfare bill or you are not going to be able to defend this country appropriately.
No, absolutely. And I heard on your show earlier, Richard Dannett talk exactly in those terms. I mean, it is beyond bonkers that they've maxed out on the credit card, and we've waited many months for Keir Starmer to bring forward this defence plan. He should have delayed it just a few more weeks and allowed Burnham to do it. I mean, it's absolutely pathetic, and we understand now that Burnham was consulted over it.
Oh, do we? We were asking that question earlier. Burnham knew.
Well, this is what I understand, but what he didn't know was the 5 billion black hole bit. I mean, you've got Labour MPs waking up to find that there are road projects in their constituencies that have now been cancelled in order to help pay for bits of it. It's already 13 billion deficient for what NATO and defence chiefs were asking for. So we already know it's not sufficient to defend...
Is he, you know him, I don't. Is he stupid enough to believe that that's going to cement a legacy? His legacy is cemented already. People have had enough.
I thought it was an act of desperation. Yeah. He was looking for some sort of legacy, and his legacy is going to be that he is the shortest-serving Labour Prime Minister ever. he is the person that has served less in number 10 than anybody else. Never mind 10B Downing Street, which Andy has now invented. The reality is that the reason, you quite rightly say, one of the last nails in the coffin for Starmer was losing Al Cairns and John Healey. And John Healey already condemned this new proposal as just being not sufficient. I'm really surprised, Jeremy, that Dan Jarvis, who I respected when I was a member of Parliament, I sat opposite him for many years, and I thought that he was a decent guy. We all know his military credentials are superb, and yet he stepped in after John Healey resigned, and he is prepared to do the job with a knowledge that the amount of money is way less than is actually necessary. It's £13 billion shy of what they really need.
I tell you what I completely agree. I think what's very interesting. Chris just made the point as well. Nothing from Healey. Nobody seems to want to stand up against Burnham. I'd heard 2 weeks ago that Healey has the numbers. Any chance in your mind that anybody stands up against Burnham now or not?
No, I don't think so. 81 signatures is massive. We all remember Wes Streeting saying that he had it. And then all of a sudden he announces his backing for Burnham. That Westminster Hall scene where Andy Burnham's taking a selfie with about 10,000 Labour MPs, you remember the scene, don't you? Well, that was all about cementing his position as the unrivaled leader. That's why I call him the Prime Minister Anoint. We're anointing a Prime Minister. I've never seen scenes. I've been a...
Well, the fact, I tell you what I call him, because he hasn't actually talked about the things that people matter about, as I've said, drilling, net zero, stopping the boats, dealing with defence issues, calling a national rape gang inquiry, lowering taxation. All he's talked about is the creation of the North. I call him Coronation Chicken.
Well, I'll tell you what, you could call it Alarm Clock Britain Manifesto, right? What you have just enunciated is what most of your listeners and viewers will be just nodding their heads at everything you've said. There's a couple of things I'd add on. You can sack Rachel Reeves, who's on the box at the moment. Sack her, definitely. No wonder they've scrapped numeracy tests. No wonder that's probably the
this is a story.
You get rid of Hermer and his Chagos deal. You make absolutely certain that Angela Rayner and Louise Haigh do not come into the cabinet.
Oh, they're coming in. They're coming in, and Miliband will probably be the Chancellor of the Exchequer, for goodness sake. And that is why, when I saw Andy Burnham, I'm a patriot. Someone was prepared to give people a chance. And I've listened to the Tory party talk about serious politicians, and increasingly, and I'll be very honest, I criticise Kemi Badenoch for taking a year to say anything, but it now becomes quite apparent that she took a very long year and actually worked out the cost, the reality and the detail of so much stuff. And I think that's coming home to register with many, many people. I think... watching Starmer and Reeves self-congratulate each other yesterday, I think they have been the worst Prime Minister and Chancellor ever. I think they should be long gone. But I don't feel that Burnham, even with that political credit, even with 400 MPs basically bowing down saying, Andy, Andy, you're our saviour, I want my leader to go, do you know what? Governing is about making difficult decisions that aren't popular, but it's about making decisions that are for the good of the country. And whether you lot like it or not, we need to lop a sizable amounts off the welfare benefit, except there are people gaming the system and spending on the things that matter, like defence. It's simple.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know there's a fear amongst the sisters in the House of Commons that there'll be more Milibands in senior positions in the cabinet than women. But you can park all that to one side. He has got to show that he is his own person, that he's been anointed by all these people in something that they've never seen in the politics as long as I've been involved in it. And then he's got to get rid of people, as I said, like Herman. You've got to not allow Haigh and Rayner back in. We all know why they left the government in the first place, and that toxicity is still there. He's really got to show that he is going to be independent and fearless of the people that are going to be around him.
But he's not going to be, and we know. I mean, I gave him 24 hours, and all he does is play a video about... I mean, just very quickly, number 10 of the North. I understand about moving things out, but putting a hub in Manchester isn't going to level up this country. Create investment north of Watford Gap. Do what you should always have done. By all means, travel there. But I don't know, it's just, to me, it sounds like window dressing, Nige. That's all it sounds like.
I understand that the Avanti train drivers are now considering going on strike, so how he's going to get up to 10B Downing Street, I'll never know.
By giving them a 100% pay rise, probably.
Let's forget the veneer. What we want to see is action. And about the Miliband's, get rid of Ed Miliband. Why there's this obsession with Ed Miliband, I just simply don't know. We are sitting on billions of pounds worth of reserves of oil and gas. Drill, baby, drill. Provide all those jobs in Aberdeen. We've had the Aberdeen South by-election. We know what the people think in that part of the world. I mean, no, Donald Trump's got it absolutely right. He said, Keir Starmer, nice guy, but I gave him some advice, immigration and oil and gas in the North Sea. He ignored both of them. I wish him well in the future. Well, we do wish him well in the future, but I wish the British people better rather than our outgoing Prime Minister, because he's left us in the mess, I almost swore that, in the mess that we currently are.
Nigel, we love having you on this station, mate. You're a legend. How's
the England tonight, yeah? Good luck.
What's the score prediction?
Well, I'm afraid what you said earlier on is probably right on penalties.
Are you going to be having a drink or three?
Well, I'm going to Henley today, so I'm going to be watching it up there on my mobile phone, but I will be praying that there's a great England victory. It should be 2-0, shouldn't it? It should.
Oh, of course, but then we'll lose to France anyway. Nice, thank you very much indeed. Top man, 8:20, Wednesday, the 1st of July. We're live across the United Kingdom. Let's go quickly to Victoria Gardens outside the House of Westminster. Chris Philps, Shadow Home Secretary. Chris, good morning, my friend. How are you?
Good morning. I'm very well, thank you.
I will start as we should start. You'll be watching the game tonight. A score prediction, please, and will you be having a drink or three?
I definitely will be watching the game this evening. I might have a cheeky beer or two while I'm watching it. I think England are going to win. I'm going to go for 3-1. But I've got to be honest, if we do win, I'm more worried about the game against Mexico that follows.
No, we can't get ahead of ourselves. It's a bit like the drilling in the background. No, Chris, a very good morning, my friend, and always delighted to have the Conservative Party on the show. Every paper screaming the obvious story, the indefensible actions yesterday. 28 billion is what the MOD needed. Keir Starmer begrudgingly and finally, in one last act of desperation, agrees 15, which means, in layman's terms, the Ministry of Defence have to make cuts, which will affect an already depleted force, Army, Navy and Air Force. We then discover he's so irresponsible or wants to stick the knife into the successor, Andy Burnham, that of the 15 billion he's promised, he can't find 5 and there's going to be a black hole, which, as I said, is a bit rich because he blamed you lot for leaving him with a black hole, Chris Philp.
Yeah, that's right. The amount of money he's offering is only half of what defence requires. There is no plan at all to get to 3% of GDP, which is what we need to do to keep our country safe. And there's not really any extra money, hardly any extra money, above what they offered a few weeks ago, which caused the former Defence Secretary, John Healey, to resign, saying that the amount of money was so small he couldn't keep our country safe, and there's barely any more than that. As you say, 5 billion of it not even funded. It's just an IOU, no idea where it's going to come from, and no plan to get to 3% of GDP. So there's absolutely no question what Keir Starmer announced yesterday, what the Labour government announced yesterday, and apparently Andy Burnham signed off on, will leave our country unsafe in what is a very dangerous world.
Couldn't agree more. Sorry about the drilling, peeps. Chris is bearing up very well under the pressure. You know what's happening? Hey, Chris, maybe it's finally happening. Maybe drill, baby, drill, starting in Westminster. Maybe we should be celebrating.
Well, I wish it was. Well, I think they're drilling the road rather than the North Sea.
I know, but we could
get there. The place we need to be
there.
Drilling is in the North Sea to get some oil and gas.
Couldn't agree more. But I thought it summed up Starmer, whether it was sabotage, whether he's still as delusional. I want to talk about Andy Burnham. You said that he signed it off. Nigel Evans said, and I don't know what the truth is, that he saw it but he wasn't aware of the 5 billion. Either way, Andy Burnham, that speech on Monday, Chris, I expected, as I said to Nigel, for him to at least touch upon stopping the boats, cutting the welfare benefit, doing something about net zero, calling a rape gang inquiry. Nothing. It was about up the north. It was window dressing. I'm not saying that I favour any particular party at this moment in time, but I'll tell you this, the British people won't swallow this BS anymore, my friend. They won't. They want facts, they want details, they want honesty, don't they?
Yeah, I agree. And all of those issues you mentioned are critical issues facing the country, and Andy Burnham ignored all of them. He seems to have no plan at all, no vision at all. You know, what we want to be doing is cutting immigration, leaving the ECHR so we can deport all foreign criminals. We need to be cutting welfare and using the money to fund defence that we were just talking about a second ago. We need to be drilling in the North Sea for new oil and gas, exactly as you said, instead of paying the Norwegians to import gas from their half of the North Sea. We need to be cutting taxes for business. In my constituency in Croydon, a business called Coughlan's Bakery have just closed down after 89 years of trading because of the government's tax increases, causing 170 jobs to be lost. These are the issues the government needs to be addressing, and Andy Burnham had not a single, just as you said, had not a single word, not a single word to say about any of these issues. This man is going to apparently be crowned as Prime Minister without a contest in 2 or 3 weeks' time, and he says nothing about any of these critical issues facing our country. And the idea that having a number 10 North in Manchester is going to sort out the country's problems is frankly laughable. He better come up with something better in the next 3 weeks, or the country is in big trouble.
I know that many people in the country are calling for a general election. Are the Tories calling for a general election?
Well, I think Kemi has said, and I agree, that if Andy Burnham is not able to lay out, for example, proper spending plans for defence, then he should call a general election, yes. So let's find out what Andy Burnham actually says when he gets into power. But right now, as you've pointed out, rightly, he hasn't said anything of any significance or substance at all. Nothing.
And before the drilling drives you completely mad, just a reaction to this astonishing, again, incompetence. Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood has said asylum seekers should not be housed in modern luxury developments. It comes after 83 migrants, reported to The Sun yesterday, were set to move into 21 houses worth 250 grand each in Stoke Heath in Shropshire. That's still going ahead. That sort of message to alarm clock Britain, Chris Philp, is utterly, utterly disgusting. Genuinely, when I read that story yesterday, I don't know what people are thinking. It's appalling. Appalling.
Yeah. It is disgusting because these people are illegal immigrants. They've entered our country illegally. And Shabana Mahmood, I mean, she's the one paying for all of this. She's the one organising all of this accommodation and putting them in brand new homes when young people living in that area, working hard, can't even dream of living in houses like that. It's absolutely disgusting when they're given to illegal immigrants. Frankly, the solution to this is to make sure illegal immigrants are deported within a week of arrival with no asylum claim, no modern slavery claim, no human rights claim, no lawyers, no legal aid, no court hearing, just deport them. That means we're going to have to pull out the ECHR and all the rest, which the Conservative Party will do. And if we deport them within a week of arrival, we won't need to accommodate them anywhere, in houses, hotels or anywhere else. But Shabana Mahmood and this Labour government and the left-wing Labour MPs that sit behind her don't have the courage to do that, and that's why these illegal immigrants are getting put up in houses, flats and hotels around the country, costing, by the way, £4 billion a year, money that should be spent on our armed forces, not on accommodating illegal immigrants. The illegal immigrants should be deported. It's really as simple as that.
Couldn't agree more. And listen, people think politics is a dirty business. Fair play to Chris Philp out there. What you need to do as you finish this interview is go over to them and send them to the North Sea to start drilling. Chris Philp, Conservatives, the Shadow Home Secretary. Thank you very much, Steve, for joining us on Breakfast. It's 8:28. Stop a minute. Oliver William Robin refusing to get out the car. I'm late this morning. Sorry, boy. Been busy. I hope you're OK. He's got only about, 10 days left of school? Oh, bless him. Little Rissy Roo's leg is better, which is good news. See you both later. Love you loads. Mick, good morning.
Morning, Jazzy. Mick from sunny Staffordshire. Here we go. A bit of poetry. A bit of Midlands poetry for you, lad. He wants a home where leaders stay, far from London, up North Way. Number 10, built beyond the south, so every voice gets heard, no doubt. Bring power close to where we are. Burnham lights the guiding star. But he still ain't got a bloody clue what he's on about, so don't follow it.
I think if Andy Burnham wants to introduce major changes to our constitution, he's talked about overhauling the House of Lords. He's also talked about overhauling our electoral system, bringing in some form of PR, moving along devolution, giving more power to municipal mayors like he still is. I think if he wants to do any of those things, he needs a mandate from the public to do them. To try and do them without calling an election, I think would be a constitutional outrage.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. If you're watching on YouTube, I have got a spoon, which is what you should eat yoghurt with, not a piece of wood. Oh dear. It's gone down the wrong way. Just gone 8:30. Welcome to Talk Breakfast. It's the home of common sense and the home of you, the alarm clock Brits. Colin, in just a sec. Loads of you texting. Thank you. Dave in London. Good morning, JK. Defence. No point having nut zero for a country that doesn't exist. Sorry to be dramatic. Defence first. Good morning to Cliff in Berkshire. It's not how much money is thrown at a problem, Jez, it's how that money is spent that matters. Do we really need to splash cash in the form of foreign aid? Welfare is a bottomless pit. There must be scope to cuts. Do we need rainbows everywhere in the NHS? Look after the pennies and the pounds will look after themselves. Linda in Walmer. Do you know where Walmer is? I've no idea. I think it might be Norfolk. So Starmer is risking the defence of this country in favour of scroungers and to stick one to Burnham. That about sums it up. Neil Blakeman. Good morning, Neil. Andy Burton, or buffoon, is the son of Starmer. Same old waffle bomb coming out of his gob. God help us, we're doomed for another 3 years. Number 10 North, what a load of old crap. Brilliant. Guy in sunny Scotland. I do try and be open-minded. Guy in sunny Scotland. Starmer and Burnham. What's the difference? Not a lot, apart from Burnham likes to dress like a communist-type Bond villain called Dr. Nonsense. Guy in sunny Scotland. Oh, you lot are out. Morning, Jez. Ian from Swindon. No wonder they're getting rid of the maths question from the Treasury, as it was initially set up by Darren Jones. One of the questions apparently was, if a boat full of men arrives on the beach, how many women and children? Apparently the answer was 80%. That's fantastic. This is the news this morning, that the Treasury, right, woke civil servants in the Treasury are axing maths exams for jobs because it could be unfair to people. Sorry, I thought you were supposed to be able to add up to work at the... Oh, no, sorry, Rachel's there. Morning, JK. UAE today, whole city up for work at 5 a.m, no benefits here. Every Labour council devolved government is bankrupt. Burnham gave 56% pay rise to bus drivers. Absolutely true. Christian, why are you texting the show? Christian England, morning, Jess. I can't believe what I'm hearing about Andy Burnham. No general election. Do me a favour, go to the people without your mandate and may wait for form you can... Oh, all right. JK, Manchester's a suburb of London now. Only Labour will consider Manchester in the north. Jack is in North Yorkshire. Morning, 2 questions. If we now have a number 10 North, do all Northern MPs need a second home too? If we get a general election, will Burnham have to compete again for the Makerfield seat? Would be interesting if he lost. Mick. Manchester is welcome to the North, number 10. The EU fanatic with the boombox, demos every day, tourists with cameras. It's appalling. He's not doing very well this morning, is he, to be honest, Andy? Paul from Spain. Morning, both. Oh, see, this was Charlie. Growth on every postcode and hope in your heart. Good God. And people are falling for it. Why? He said nothing about the issues that Britons are concerned about and nothing about how he's going to financially achieve what he wants. Are people that gullible? It appears they are. Johnny, good morning. Burnham's plan is to rearrange the deck chairs on the Titanic. Is that it? Also, the 10 years is a serious message. That means if it's a complete disaster up to 9 years and 6 months, he's going to turn around and say, I never said I'd fix it. Yeah, I get it. And finally, Rory McLeod for now. Thank you, gang, for the messages. Morning, Jez. The reason the Labour backbenchers want to keep benefits in place is because they all know they're going to need to claim them when they get hooved out. Listen, it's really important. I've said it before. About this show. We try and give everybody a chance, but there is a degree, it would be fair to say, of cynicism about Andy Burnham, but people will point to the fact that he's a better orator and communicator than Keir Starmer. My 6-year-old, frankly, is better than Keir Starmer. Morning, Colin.
Hi, Jez. It's Colin truck driver from Blackburn. Hey, listen, it's one of these, right? Starmer wants to be in charge of NATO, which will be a NATO. And if he wants, he's going to put all this money in. What's he going to do? Send all them frigging rubber dinghies what's signed over back to Europe?
Listen, 25 to 9 0344 499 1000, text 287 Now, as I say, we always try and give balance across the political spectrum. We're going to say very good morning now to presumably somebody who supports a fellow Labour mayor. David Skaith is the mayor of York and North Yorkshire, the Labour mayor. David, good morning. How are you?
I'm well, you?
Yeah, good. Thanks for coming on, mate. Always the same for me. Want to try and see all sides. I think we'd all admit, even you as a Labour supporter, that Keir Starmer has been a massive letdown. And yesterday, in my mind, you're going to tell me I'm wrong, just about summed up why the British public had a belly full of Keir Starmer. To take months delaying on this defence spending review, to give the MOD far less than they want, so we're going to have to, in essence, make cuts, and to then drop Andy Burnham with a $5 billion black hole just about sums up his premiership, doesn't it?
There's undoubtedly been a huge amount of frustrations with the Prime Minister and how things have happened over the last 18 to 2 years or so now. Part of that has been the communication, part of that has been linking in with the other government departments, so a lot of it's been working in silo and showing that leadership across those government departments. So these difficult decisions, like you've been talking about this morning, do need to be made, but need to be made in conjunction with those ministers and those government departments, rather than leaving everyone to their own devices, really showing that leadership across those areas. And I think that's the difference where we'll see with what we've heard from Andy Burnham in the last few days or so, and been mayor of Greater Manchester for the last 9 years, showing that leadership, bringing all those different areas that he's in charge of in Greater Manchester, from transport, from housing, from adult skills and other areas, and having that leadership across that to really show that message. And he is a better communicator, as you touched on there. And I think that is part of it. And I know people feel that it's fluffy and it doesn't make any difference, but it really does. Is how you tell the story of the direction of travel.
It does, and I absolutely,
really,
and that's why I acknowledged it. But I will also, because I'm straight with you, right? I've always been straight with everybody. The point of this show and democracy is we will disagree. I absolutely get that it's probably the most blindingly successful coup in British political history. I also accept that the guy has something that Starmer doesn't. But I put this to you, David Skaith. I don't care what your political persuasion is. If you knock on doors the length and breadth of this country, I would wager anything with you, my friend, that most subjects that will be raised are How can you stop the boats? Why on earth will you not cut a welfare benefits bill that is now bigger than the tax we receive from working people? Why don't you drop this crazy net zero fab, which this morning 13% more on energy bills? You promised you bring them down. Start drilling because it's a resource. And most of all, not most of all, but included in that, why in the name of God have none of you, including the Tories, called a grooming gangs inquiry? And we can dress that up. The fact is, David, I want your man to be successful. I'm not a Labour supporter. But what people are saying about Monday was, Waffle's fine, but there was no detail. Now, you're probably going to say, yeah, but you can only say that when you get in. There hasn't been a contest yet. Well, he's being briefed already by the Cabinet Secretary. I would have thought that any decent spad or advisor would have said, Andy, you need to touch upon these things. And that's why people are already, I have to say, going, you what? Does he understand?
I'll push back on that a little bit. I think I will go out door knocking with you wherever you want to go. And I would say the vast majority of doors I've knocked on in Makerfield during the local elections that we had in South and West Yorkshire as well, the vast majority of things that came from the doorstep were things that people see when they walk directly out their front door. So it's things like bins, it's road maintenance, it's the buses, it's the fact that their young children, their family members can't afford a house. That's the thing that's impacting people. That's
why can't they afford a house, my friend? This is listen. We're going to do this. I'm going to cut my daughter. My daughter is at York University. Hold on a second. My daughter is at York University, and I promise you, I will come up there and we will bring a camera crew and I will knock on doors. I mean that genuinely. I'd like to do that. What I'm saying is, why are there problems with bins and roads? Because, I mean, answer this as a Labour politician. Why will no Labour politician accept that, hear me out, you need to cut the welfare benefits bill because not everybody who is claiming is genuine. The genuine people, the greatest invention was the welfare state, are also missing out because many thousands of people, David, are gaming the system. That's why so many of our public services are creaking, because the money needs to be moved out of that. Why don't Labour politicians admit that?
And I will come back on 2 points there. The vast majority of people who claim any sort of benefits are actually in work, and that's the problem. Work for a lot of people is not paying. Secondly, the reason why people can't afford a home is because we sold off so many of our council homes back under Thatcher in the late 70s and never rebuilt those homes. We've got 1.5 million homes short of where we should be because we sold them off, or we didn't.
Well, what about the 83 homes in Shropshire yesterday that were given to illegal migrants? Why weren't they given to people who have been waiting for homes?
And what we need to do now is build those affordable and social homes because we haven't been building them. But to your point, on your question about road maintenance and bins and all this sort of stuff, local authorities have been absolutely cut to ribbons over the last 15 years of Conservative government. So you touched on York there. York Council is just about the worst funded local authority in the entire country, and that's been through Conservative austerity for years. So the Tories basically took all their problems, handed them to local authorities and said, you go deal with it, and we're not going to give you any money to go and deal with it.
Is that why councils like Birmingham are completely in the mess then? It's the Tories' fault?
Yeah. Well, yeah, because they haven't been given the funding to keep up with what they need to deliver on. They have to be fixing roads. They've got to be they have to be delivering adult social care, children's social care, all these sort of things that people are saying that we need to cut the welfare state and we cut all this sort of stuff. We're just going to have more people then going to local authorities needing that support. And if local authorities haven't got the capacity, funding to support those people, you're just going to be in this cycle. You need to break the cycle.
Is there any part of you, hold on a second, is there any part of you that believes that, I mean, local councils have mismanaged funds? There's proof in Birmingham, undeniable proof that money was spent in the most appalling way. By the way, I'm not sitting here as a Conservative or anybody. I'm saying to you, I mean, one of Andy, your mate's ideas is to devolve more powers to the regions. Look what happened in Scotland, the SNP. Is that a good idea?
To devolve more powers, again, that's the point. Devolved powers need to come with the funding and resources to deliver on it. That's the problem we're facing. Is me as a mayor of York and North Yorkshire, I get devolved powers and say transport, for example, but my transport settlement is tiny. tiny compared to what Andy has in Greater Manchester or Tracy Brayman has in West Yorkshire. It's tiny, but I've got a geographical area that's 5 times bigger than London. It's a huge area. So unless I get the funding that can actually deliver that service, it is going to be failing. And that's where Andy knows that. And he's come from being a mayor for many years. He was an MP, we forget this, for many years. He's seen the challenges of government and how it hasn't been working. And he understands if you're going to devolve something, be it skills, be it housing, be it transport, the funding has to come with it. And that was the failing. I'm not saying that Labour government and local authorities have all been perfect. Of course they haven't. No one is perfect. We're all human beings. But under 15 years of austerity, that's what's happened. It's cut back, cut back, cut back.
Okay, well, hold on one second, hold on one second. So I've written down one word, funding. Hear me out, right? Absolutely. Do not disagree about the Tories' austerity. I mean, we've done 2 hours on, you know, the indefensible position of Keir Starmer. If you were listening, you'll say that I said this started 15 years ago with Cameron, however long ago it was. It is disgusting that successive governments, predominantly Conservative, have thought, oh, we're fine, let's just keep cutting, keep coming. We're now in a position where we cannot defend ourselves. I don't care what your political persuasion, the first duty of any government is to protect its people. Funding. Listen, the thing that always gets me about the Labour Party, and I'll be straight, because it's great to have you on, is when I was growing up, what the Labour Party did was they promised everybody more funding, but the books never balanced, so they either they either printed the money and inflation went up, 76, or they borrowed money and went to the IMF. This is not pro-Tory at all, hear me out. How are you going to fund these councils when you can't fund defence and there's a £5 billion black hole, when, with respect, we've had a Chancellor who I think has been the worst ever. But the point is, everybody wants money. And I haven't heard from Andy Burnham, which is why I started this conversation. I've heard the fluff and it's great, right? But where's the money? Show me the money. You know and I know that the only way you lot will raise that money is to raise taxes on middle-class earners or people you perceive as a party have achieved anything, that have made savings or bought a house. That, I'm not going to go at you. That's what the Labour Party do. I want Andy Burnham to say, acknowledge, it's tough. And do you know what, Parliamentary Labour Party? You've brought me in and I'm going to tell you a few home truths. I don't want to have to do this, but I'm going to have to cut some from the welfare benefits bill. You know, I might not want to do this, but I'm going to have to think about foreign aid. I'm going to have to think about prioritising, David, the British people. And that's the mechanics, not the waffle, that's the facts. How is he going to pay for it, and why doesn't he do what every single person I know says, which is care about the people on benefits, but, sorry, disagree with you, grab the thousands who are gaming the system, right, who are laughing in the face of people paying tax, and make them understand it's not a freebie.
What I'll just come back on that is there is undoubt that we are going to have to make some incredibly difficult decisions. But like coming back to my earlier point, is what we've got to do is stop the cycle of why people have fallen into requiring benefits in the first place. And that is looking at things like our education system that isn't working, that isn't supporting people. So why do we have so many NEETs in this country that have actually got 5 GCSEs or more, and 15% of NEETs have actually got a degree? It's because that linking between education through and into work isn't there. So for young people now, it is so difficult to get that first job. So think when we were much younger, you know, the opportunity to just go walk into a job, into hospitality or retail like I did, that's where I started, was incredibly easy. But I also got a pretty decent education. I had a degree. I always knew I would get a job. But that link from that isn't there anymore because our education system is so dated and it isn't lining up to what people need.
I don't think you and I should talk about education because the ideology of Bridget Phillipson and me, I can't have that conversation. I do agree. I do agree, and you might find this outrageous. My kid's 16. He's leaving school. He's got a job as a trainee greenkeeper straight away. I do believe that kids should be able to do that and build up. I get that. I just personally have a view that you won't share, which is, unfortunately, we've got to a point post-Blair where there's too many colleges and too many courses, and and I'm not into elitism, but actually, at the end of the day, it seems that many people can get a qualification or a degree, and it doesn't rate for much, and they end up with a big debt. But look, I want to ask you why Andy Burnham didn't discuss welfare.
Just on that one point, I'm not a million miles away from it. What I'm saying is, that's my point, is our education system is funneling people into one path through, be it university or maybe. We need that broader approach. Actually, what we need now, if we're going to build 1.5 million homes and all the construction, everything needs to happen, we need thousands of people who can work in construction, electricians, sparkies, all these kind of trades, which are incredibly important, where you can earn a really good salary. We need to branch out what the system is doing to make sure it's lining up with what industry is telling us. And again, that's what Andy's been able to do in Greater Manchester and what other mayors can do, because we are in charge of adult skills funding post-19. What we're asking government is to be in charge of that post-16, so we can support people at a younger age. So not everyone feels like they have to go to university. They can go get a trade. They can go get.
I do not in any way disagree with that. Now I'm going to make a deal with you. If we're going to go. I'm going to go to York. I'm going to knock on doors. Do you I mean that? My daughter's at university, and I do genuinely mean this. I appreciate you coming on. There is cynicism, but we're all prepared to give Andy Burnham a chance because we're so hacked off. But I've got to ask you a question, and you're savvy. You said something in the midst there. Are you a Labour man who thinks that Andy Burnham and the next Labour government should look at cutting the welfare bill?
I think everything is on the table, but what we need to look at is actually how structures are working. Clearly, welfare and the system isn't working, so it's not supporting people to get into work and have that career. I don't know many people, I can't imagine many people who don't want to work, who don't want to have that career. They want their opportunity to go. Our systems, be it education, through welfare, whatever it may be, is not working for so many people. I've touched on before how we have so many people under the age of 24 not in work, not in education, not in training. I don't believe that's because they all don't want it. It's because our systems have failed so many young people, and it has failed for so long now. We need to change that system. And again, I'll talk on it because we're talking about Andy Burnham, what he's done around skills and training and that education, getting more people into work experience, 1,000 more people into 45 hours of work experience last year. Those are the things that we can do. And they don't necessarily cost the world, but it gives people that step into education and into work to support themselves. I do firmly believe that most people do want to support themselves and want to rely on themselves, but we've got to create the environment when they can.
I think there's a middle ground, right? Which is, I like the fact that you think that. I think there's hear me out, a degree of naivety, because I think there's a lot of people that game the system nowadays, not just all sorts of people. But I will come to York. I genuinely, the final, and genuinely, David, come on again, brilliant. And I mean, it's what it's about, isn't it? You don't damn well agree with everybody. It's what debate is about, and fair play. Final question. I want you to think hard about this. How much are you going to miss Keir Starmer?
All jokes aside, and I know a lot of your calls be phoning saying that they hate him and all the rest of it and all that. Genuinely, I believe he's a genuinely good man who's in it for the right reason.
Out of his depth, though, right?
I think what's happened is the communication externally and internally hasn't been there. The structures there to actually run the government have probably not been firm enough from the very start. And I think too much time it's been left to each ministerial department and to almost work in silos. I think that's been fundamentally the problem. I've had lots of conversations with Keir. I genuinely think he's a decent bloke. I honestly, truly do believe that. I'm not saying this is a Labour. I've only been in a position for, honestly, for 2 years. I came into politics a couple of years ago because I was fed up with politicians and how the system and the structures weren't working. So I do genuinely believe that. But I think we're now in a different fight. And for me, I know a lot of your callers and listeners will be on the show, will be reform and supporters and much more on the right politics than I am. But I do fear that. I fear very divisive, angry politics. I think it's bad for the country. I think it's bad for people. And I think where we're heading now is it needs a different way of being able to deal with that problem.
Listen, can I just say this? You most definitely will always be welcome to come on because it is a debate. I will come to you. I just want to say one thing. I'm not trying to cut you off. When I hear Labour politicians talk about the divisive right, I would love them to acknowledge that there is divisive left as well. That's all I'm saying. I think there's far right and far left. And whatever your political persuasion, I think we all have to acknowledge this country is in a bad state, you know?
There's always going to be division, but what I see on the far right of things is real anger. And it's anger and it's division and quite frankly, I find it quite worrying. And I think that has gone way, way too far.
Well, listen, I have to move, not because I'm trying to cut you off, but because they're telling me I've got 2 breaks. It is an absolute pleasure to have you on. David Scaife, Labour Mayor of York and North Yorkshire, will be back on this show. Talk Breakfast. Alan, good morning.
Morning, JK. Big Al from Swansea, yeah. Hope in your heart, you asked the question. Well, my only hope is Rupert Lowe, Nigel Farage, Ben Habib get round the table and sort their differences out for the greater good of this country. You know, the lefties now, the Greens, Lib Dems, Labour, they're all going to get together. They can't stick each other, but to get rid of the right, they're willing to form a pact. So, for the greater good, get this country back, because if in 2 years all these lefties get together, we have had, you think it's bad now? We have had it. With a delusional, open prisons, go to the police. Oh, you just, what the hell is going on with these people? So that's, I hope, get on the table, boys, sort it out, and get this country going the right direction. Keep up the faith. Ta-ra.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
I watched him last night. He spent 7 minutes talking about Lemsip. 5 to 9. Great conversation, though. Peter Carbell every night from 7 on Talk. 0344 499 1000. We've got time to just do some quick sport. Let's push the button, Big M, please.
90 minutes in 90 seconds. From The Sun.
Justin Allen is the chief writer for The Sun's EFL. Justin, we ain't got much time. It's all about England, DR Congo tonight. I've just met Andy Goldstein from TalkSport in the toilet, who said to me, we'll be down 1-0, we'll score in the 88th minute, and then then it'll be penalties. Is he more realistic than the people who say, it'll be 3-0, be easy?
I'm actually with Andy on this one, and oh, for crying out loud, please not penalties. But Declan Rice, today on our back page, has actually said there's nothing to worry about. England have got the best group of penalty takers they've ever had. And as we know, penalties used to strike the fear of God into us, didn't they? And we've seen Germany and Holland knocked out on penalties by Paraguay and Morocco. Obviously, England have lost to Germany a couple of times, Argentina a couple of times.
Shame about the Germans, wasn't it, yesterday in Holland? That was devastating, wasn't it?
Boo, hoo, hoo, yeah. But, I mean, in terms of penalties, I mean, look at it. I mean, Harry Kane, Ivan Toney, Rashford, Saka, Gordon, Bellingham...
Why don't we just bloody well play the game and win? Listen, if all those people are going, oh, we'll win on penalties, if we can't beat DR Congo with respect... Here's my big issue, though, with Tuchel, and Gabby Abonhol was saying to me this morning, we came out on the same lift. If this goes wrong, Tuchel will be crucified over the fact that he didn't... I don't know how Lewis Hall and Terence Trent D'Arby, as I call him, are not on that plane. I think it's absolutely disgraceful. Seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd even go further. I think Jared Barron should be there as well. And I know that might divide opinion. But no, Tuchel's selections have been questionable. And it's one of them, isn't it? If it comes off, he looks great. And if he doesn't, you know... But look at the draw. I mean, if we do win tonight, which we surely should, it's Mexico in the early hours of Monday morning, and then probably Brazil, and then most probably Argentina in the semis.
Yeah, so we'll be going home in the quarterfinals, probably. But anyway, we have to keep the faith. How are you watching? Where are you watching? And how many beers are you drinking?
I'm watching it down the pub, and I think at least 5 pints, 6 pints tonight, Jeremy, for sure.
And then when the game starts... Listen, good man. The Sunsport coverage of this is brilliant. Backpage Day penalty shootout. You're already writing about that. Thank you so much indeed. Justin Allen and, of course, TalkSport, our sister station. All the coverage you need on the countdown tonight to England, DR Congo. Come on, lads, please. I can't take much more. Breakfast!
The Crown is facing its gravest test in decades, and the royal tea from Talk is your front row seat. With royal reputations under pressure and probing questions about public trust, we unpack every twist and revelation with the biggest names in the business. From the throne room at Buckingham Palace to a mansion in Montecito, we follow every royal ripple. Never miss a moment of The Crown in crisis. Subscribe to the Royal Tea from Talk on the app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk. across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back or welcome along. I wish there was a camera and a microphone taking part during the breaks. Christian is from Wales has just received a lovely card from one of our Welsh listeners, and I said, what does that mean? He's explained it to me, and he said, the Welsh language is extraordinary. Do you know what they call a microwave? Poppity ping. Why? What? Anyway, welcome along. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. What are you waking up to on Wednesday, the 1st of July? Well, poppity ping. You're waking up to, as every paper describes, the indefensible final act of our Prime Minister, the out-of-depth Prime Minister Starmer, who will be gone in 3 weeks. Yesterday, the long-awaited defence value review, basically. The military had said we need 28 billion just to stand still. He eventually gave them 15, which means they're going to have to make cuts, which will make us even more indefensible. The worst part of all is we then discover the 15 he's offered, he can only afford 10, which gives Andy Burnham, the anointed one, or coronation chicken, as I now call him, a £5 billion black hole when he takes the job in 3 weeks, which is in itself quite ironic, isn't it? Because, of course, when Starmer came to power, all he did, along with Reeves, was bitch about how the Tories had left a black hole. So was that, in fact, sabotage, or is he still delusional? But let's talk about Andy Burnham, because Andy Burnham, as I said, for this whole week, seems to have come from nowhere and is going to be the Prime Minister. We had that speech on Monday where we wanted him to talk about welfare cuts, North Sea oil drilling, stopping the boats, having a national rape gang inquiry, and all we got was the number 10 up north. This guy is... He's good. He's a good communicator. I absolutely accept that. But we need more than that at this moment in history. Yesterday, he was in a taxi from London's airport or train station, I guess, to the House of Commons. This is what he posted on Instagram. This is going to be our next Prime Minister, ladies and gentlemen.
I left the north again, I travelled south again. Well, there's a bit of a Smiths lyric there for you, but I'm back in London. After the speech, pleased with how number 10 North has gone down. You know, what it'll mean in future is that everybody doesn't have to come down here to have a serious conversation with the government. If you think about it, a North Pole to the South Pole, it'll just make the country feel more balanced. I hope you're excited by it. I'm certainly excited by it. The whole idea is number 10 North is a conduit to get power out into the country, every single part of it, and get growth going everywhere. So yeah, come on everyone, get on board with it, and let's make it happen. Good growth in every postcode, hope in every heart. That's our mission.
Hope in your heart, are you dreaming? Morning, Wayne.
Good morning, Jezza. You keep playing that damn Andy Burnham video clip thing, and it keeps hitting me. It's like, it reminds me of something. There's something so awkward and so unnatural and so just weird about that kind of message. And I was like, what does it remind me of? And then it hit me. If I go back to 2010, when technology was just starting to come really good, and then you give it to your parents, and they really didn't know what to do with it. And then they'll send you weird voice notes or just ramble, or they'll then sit there and send a random video. You know, and that's what that is. That's that awkward, weird, chatting nonsense and not really knowing what he's doing. And apparently he's like the Messiah, and he's like, he has this great media training, and it just sounds weird.
Well, you've upset me. My parents never sent those messages because they're dead. We'll say a very good morning to Talks International. They say, Isabel Oakeshott, is there hope in your heart? Are you dreaming? Is there hope in your heart? I pray. Is there hope in your Isabel Oakeshott? Because you brightened every single bleeding day. How about that?
I mean, why don't you do that every morning? It gave me so much hope in my heart that I think we need a dose of Jezza's singing every morning.
Somebody said you sound worse than Dame Vera Lynn, and she's not around anymore. Thanks, Paul. Isabel, on a serious note, on an absolutely serious note, before we talk about Starmer, you said on Monday, and I get it, he's a better communicator. There's something about him. He's got the look of, well, Zelensky, many people seem to think. But this country right now, with all of its problems, doesn't need that powder puff It needs fact. It needs acknowledgement that we've got real issues, doesn't it?
I think it needs both. I think we're not in the mood at this point for another really dreary, process-led Prime Minister. And I think people will be pleased to have a new leader that is a bit more human. And, you know, we can mock his little singing and chatting in the back of his car or whatever. But personally, I do prefer it to that automaton Starmer's style. You know,
no, I get that, but I get that, but as James said, it's no point in being a good communicator if what you're communicating is crap or much of the same has come before.
It's not enough. It's like base level to be a good communicator, and then it gets you to 2 points out of 10 in an application to be Prime Minister of the UK right now. Being a good communicator only really gets you 1 point.
Yeah.
And, you know, looking the part maybe gets you another. And having good ideas is an awful lot more important. And this whole obsession with the North, you know, it feels like he's not quite come out of Mayor of Manchester mode. You know, most of the country isn't in those parts that he's obsessing about at the moment. The country's so much bigger than that. And, you know, I don't hear anyone, I mean, of course, admittedly, I'm based in London, move around the country a fair bit, but no one has said to me what I want from the next Prime Minister of the UK is to put more resources into the North.
It's not even that for me. I would agree. Is one of the things that I felt Boris let us down massively on. I like the idea of levelling up. I worked for 15 years in Manchester. I think it's a disgrace sometimes, but simply putting a hub there and being there 1 day a week is not the answer. The answer, dear Labour friends, is to encourage investment and businesses to grow and industrial success, which comes from low interest rates. It comes from not increasing national insurance contributions on small businesses. It comes from low energy costs so business can survive, like start drilling and all that. It doesn't come from, oh, are you feeling good about this? The North Pole and the South. I lived in Manchester. I love Manchester. I love Manchester. I know Andy Burnham's... I've been there. But that doesn't deal with the issues that we have in this country. And I want more from him, Isabel. That's all I'm saying. And the British... I mean, yesterday I had a Labour MP saying to me, yeah, but he shouldn't, you know... The contest hasn't started yet. So because the contest hasn't started, you're saying he's not going to put meat on the bone, but he is being briefed by the Cabinet Secretary in the Civil Service.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't work. There's already been loads of effort to kind of create the appearance of power hubs in the North and shifting administrative stuff. I mean, the government has invested hundreds of millions in, for example, moving civil service departments of Whitehall that now have huge offices based in the North.
Darlington, I think, isn't it? Darlington's one.
I mean, kind of who cares? You know, this is not the kind of stuff that people talk about in the pub when they're talking about all the challenges that are facing the country and that there are in their lives. They don't say, well, you know, if only incoming Prime Minister Andy Burnham had a number 10 in the North, all my woes would disappear. It's like one thing, you know, if he was unveiling a whole range of things, great, make that 1 out of 10 of the things that you're doing. But it's not enough to, you know, give us hope in our heart, quite bluntly. It doesn't give me any hope in my heart.
No, I'm with you. Let's talk about the other story that's on the front of every newspaper, and I don't need to keep repeating this. The performance, the defence review by Starmer yesterday, in essence, I don't know, 60% of what they needed, which means the MOD will have to make cuts, and then we discover it's not priced properly, and 5 billion will need to be found. We've heard rumours this morning that Andy Burnham knew about it, but he didn't know about the deficit. I think, don't know what you think, that just about summed up Keir Starmer's premiership. Just fudged, just appallingly not able to grasp the importance of the job.
It's just so lame, isn't it? And made even more ridiculous by these rumours that he wants to apply for a job as head of NATO, you know, at a point where he's just walking out of the country, having woefully and manifestly failed to protect our borders. We can't even operate successfully in the Channel. No. We can't stop the ongoing invasion of small boats, and he's not funded defence adequately. I mean, the thing about defence is there's so much inbuilt inflation. I can't remember the precise figures, but when I was studying this, because I wrote a book on the state of the British Armed Forces, I think defence inflation runs at about 11%. It runs way higher than standard rates of inflation, just because of the way these procurement projects are. So you have to add an awful lot more money to actually be getting anything additional for your investment. You end up having to plough an awful lot in just to stand still in defence, and he's just not done it.
No, and I think, the man, I mean, this sort of belief that he still thinks he can create a legacy, I think he just needs to disappear. There's a couple of other stories that I want to throw at your way. Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood, in a quest to try and be popular with the left and the right, in fact everybody to do with the Labour Party, has this morning said it is fundamentally wrong that asylum seekers should be housed in modern luxury developments. That great story yesterday, great, appalling. 83 illegal migrants given £250,000 houses in Stoke Heath in Shropshire. Disgusting. However, the 83 are still moving into those 21 houses. That's just a policy. That's OK, I can't admit, but I'm going to have a new policy. How the hell does that look, Isabel, to your hard-working alarm clock Brits? Appalling, isn't it?
I mean, it is just, it's genuinely grotesque, isn't it?
Yeah.
We have absolutely lost our minds with this stuff. I was talking about the extent to which the NHS is being drained by all of this as well. And in Richard's constituency, so my fiancé Richard Tice, MP for Boston and Skegness, a third of the mothers in the maternity unit in Pilgrim Hospital in Boston don't speak a word of English. They have to have translators. This is insanity. We've spent the last week talking about crises in maternity services in the NHS. Well, of course, that's going to be exacerbated if the whole system is being exploited by people that either have no entitlement to NHS care or are so unable to integrate in the UK that they can't even speak our language.
I'm so glad you brought it up. You're the first person that I've heard say that, and I've said it for a long time. People will say the NHS, they'll talk about misuse of funds, they'll talk about people, coming from abroad to have operations. There are hundreds of thousands of people that have come into this country illegally, have not paid for a system that gives it to everybody who are being given that treatment. That is a drain as well. I find Shabana Mahmood now is an interesting one because, of course, she's trying to placate Andy Burnham to keep her job, and the whole thing's an utter disaster. Another thing that I wanted to run by you. She's also under pressure today. I mean, honestly, these stories just keep coming and you end up wanting to headbutt the nearest one.
I'm getting really stressed listening to this. I literally arrived back last night from the UAE for summer in the UK. I cannot wait. It's so gorgeous. The weather is lovely. I'm looking out at the Houses of Parliament. I see the Union flag flying from Westminster. I had some hope in my heart. And then I've come on and it's just reminded me of all the things that are going so wrong. And I could weep. It is so bad.
Well, you'll be crying by the end of these next two. Shabana Mahmood is also under pressure to close a legal loophole preventing the deportation of a Pakistani grooming gang leader, even though his British citizenship has been revoked. Shabir Ahmed, who was convicted of 30 child rape offences as part of that Rochdale grooming gang, cannot be thrown out of Britain because of an anomaly that exempts Commonwealth citizens who arrived before 1973 from being removed. He's released on Thursday. Let's forget about his victims and the children that he was part of raping. We're going to let him walk in our society. Madness.
You know what other countries do? They just manhandle people onto planes and deport them, and to hell with it all. That is how it works in many countries across the world. And, sometimes in some cases, you just have to do stuff and, you don't ask, you just seek forgiveness later. And I think we've got far too wrapped up in some of this stuff. In the end, we are a sovereign nation. We ought to be able to control who is and who isn't able to remain in our country.
Can you take one more depressing story, having arrived for the British summer?
Just.
How competent do you think Rachel Reeves is?
Well, that's easy. Not competent at all.
Because there's been fury this morning. Watch Isabel's face. I'm going back to the UAE, as woke civil servants have decided to axe maths exams for jobs at the Treasury because it would be unfair on certain groups. People that can't add up, presumably. I've no idea. But you've got a chancellor who can't add up, but the civil service, the woke civil service is saying, you shouldn't get them to do maths tests. Some people might not be good at maths from other countries or with different languages, and that would be very unfair.
Well, maybe Rachel Reeves needs to demonstrate how well she could do in these tests, and then we could take it from there.
I'm sorry, I'm not having that from you, Oakshott. You arrive here from another country, legally, and you're rude to our Chancellor. Let me tell you that she's got a message for you, Rachel Reeves. Go on, Rach, tell her.
Well, I'm an economist. I studied economics. I got a master's in economics from the London School of Economics, and I worked as an economist at the Bank of England.
Isabel, want to respond to her?
What can I say? I think the proof in how skilled she is the state of our economy, which is flatlining. You know, it never seems to inch more above about 0.1%, 1%, growth. So, yeah, I mean, that's all the evidence you need, really, isn't it?
Anyway, I started by singing you into Great Britain. You were very happy. Is there hope in your heart? Am I dreaming? And I've ended up depressing you with the news.
You have. I'm not coming on again.
I want to ask you a question without you getting offended. The beautiful flowers over your left shoulder, did you buy them when you arrived, or did Tice have them there already?
He had them there. He's really good at that stuff. He's really good. He tidied up and there were flowers.
You know what women say when a man buys them flowers, don't you, Isabel?
No, I don't get
My
it.
wife always goes, what have you done? Whenever I buy her flowers. Listen, thank you so much as ever. You're brilliant. We love you. Enjoy London and everything that goes with it. And we'll speak to you tomorrow. Isabel Oakshott Talks, international editor, back in the United Kingdom for summer. It's 9:20. We're live across the UK. Julia here from 10 o'clock, Ian Collins from 1, and Kevin O'Sullivan from 4 o'clock this afternoon. So many people have messaged, and I'm going to do them. Jezza, Burnham is not a good communicator. A good communicator allows his ideas to be questioned and tested by a journalist. That's true. Morning, Jez. This whole Burnham saga is nothing more than a modern-day Shakespeare drama. So much backstabbing and changing of allegiance after the plotting of Haig, Powell and Rayner over the past year. I'm thinking we should call this coup the scorn of the number 10 women, says John in Hampshire. Morning to Enid. Has Zoom not reached London yet? That idiot Burnham says he doesn't want everyone to have to travel down there. God help us all. Sean, morning, Jez. Can somebody tell Burnham the job of a Prime Minister goes beyond Manchester? What next? Number 2, USA, number 10, USA, number 10, The Hague, number 10, Kiev? I feel this could be a disaster. Can't wait for the first PMQ, says Sean in Somerset. Paul, why doesn't Burnham ask the producers of Coronation Street if he can use one of the houses on the street as his new number 10 Downing Street? Here's a secret for you. Have you got any Coronation Street fans in? Right. You ever been to the street itself in Manchester? Because it was next door. The houses are only 2 foot high. Did you know that? And you go, how the hell? Because you film up. That's a genuinely true story. Film next door to them for 10 years. Nobody gives it to us. Jez, the government telling us they're getting asylum seekers out of expensive hotels and putting them in less expensive houses of multiple occupancy. My understanding is these hotels were given 5- and 7-year contracts. Are we willing to believe that the government, says Paul in Fife, will not be valuing and honouring those contracts? Yet more money down the toilet. Liz in Southampton. Morning, Jez, they're loving it. Regarding Burnham's taxi chat, what a load of unintelligible crap. Nothing will ever change or get any better until the whole sad Labour Party are gone forever. Keith, morning, Jez. You haven't picked up on the hope in your heart being part of Liverpool's You'll Never Walk Alone. I thought Burnham was an Everton fan. Come on, you Irons. Keith from Watford. To be honest, Christian said that this morning. Leslie, you've got a nice singing voice, Jeremy. Did you ever swing? Did you ever swing in the choir? Oh. That didn't come out right. Did I ever sing in a choir? No, I can't sing. I can sing in the shower. Dave's in Dorset. Why did I do that? Football, the so-called beautiful game. Pah, never been to a football ground, never will. Can't abide it all. No doubt there will be pictures of people crying when we lose. If football was that good, why is it only on the back pages of newspapers, says Dave in Dorset. It's on the front page today, you miserable git. Hello, good morning, Jez. Perhaps Andy Burnham could repay Starmer for the $5 billion black hole by removing the Labour whip. Starmer could return to his old friends, Jeremy Corbyn and Diane Abbott, in the dusty corner of the House of Commons chamber. Chris Dully, I'm sorry. I'm joking. Starmer is doing what many people have done before him. He's using his powerful position to get his own back on Burnham. It is petty, spiteful and exactly what we expect from useless individuals. Dan's in Hartlepool. We need to start calling Andy Burnham Andy Burden, because let's face it, that's what it's going to be. Couple more. Rich, or Betty, I should say. Morning, Betty. Burnham is only an MP, no security clearance, not an elected Prime Minister, not due in for a week. Apparently he was briefed on the defence plan before it went public. How does that work? And Brian, a voter in BCP. What's BCP? I don't know. Good morning, Jeremy. Spend more on defence than employ the unemployed in the defence industry and kill two birds with one stone. That's a very good idea. Finally, Cliff's in Berkshire. Morning, boy. IDS is correct. Many people on welfare most likely could and should work. Question, are the jobs there, though? I think they are. People need to look. 0344 499 1000. Belinda, good morning.
Morning, Jeremy. Just talking about education to that Labour MP, I'd just like to say something. My niece is 37 years old. When she left school, she didn't go to university. She went straight to working for a fashion retail store part-time. She then worked for a travel agency full-time and then became manager. She then went from being a manager to a regional manager. She then went to work for a huge charity, being a regional manager for 3 different counties. She's now owning her own 5-bedroomed house. She has no debts and she's working in a huge security company, and she's doing really, really well. And a lot of her friends all have massive debts of over £50,000 to £60,000. I'm so proud of her that she just got on with it, got a job and started earning. I mean, going to university doesn't mean anything these days if you can do a degree on how Madonna dances or how, I don't know, how to put makeup on a frog. It's just ridiculous. Great show.
We've got some breaking news that has just come in. TalkSport have announced a brand new partnership in a developing story. We hear they've created So Good Lager right in time for football's big summer. Just in, we're hearing that So Good Lager will be pouring pints across all O'Neill's pubs and some of the best sports pubs across the UK. With the big kickoff just around the corner, you can find out where to get your hands on a fresh pint of So Good Lager at talksport.com/lager.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Did I miss, by the way? I mean, of course, England tonight. You're all going to leave work early and you're going to drink lots and cheer England on against DR Congo. And all the coverage on our sister station, TalkSport. Fantastic coverage as well, whatever you're doing tonight. Have I missed that? Does anybody... Wimbledon started. Is anybody into that? No. Occasionally. But there's no British players, so it's going to be... Anyway, there you go. Just thought I'd drop it in. Shabana Mahmood. This is brilliant. We just talk, and it's not brilliant, it's appalling. He's rightfully under pressure this morning to close a legal loophole preventing the deportation of a Pakistani grooming gang ringleader, even though a court revoked his British citizenship. This vile human being, Shabir Ahmed, was convicted, ladies and gentlemen, of 30 child rape offences. He was part of that Rochdale grooming gang. But he cannot be thrown out of Britain because of some Immigration Act, an anomaly in 1971. He's out of jail, 73, on Thursday. This man abused 30 he had 30 child rape offences. He's protected from deportation. Look at that piece of... He's protected from deportation by a provision in the Act that exempts Commonwealth citizens who arrived in the UK before 73 from removal. This is where I don't understand politicians. He should be taken from jail in a police van to Dover, handcuffed and put on a boat or put on a plane and deported, the vile piece of crap, out of my country. Chris Phillips is a former senior police officer and ex-head of the National Counter-Terrorism Security. Why do we bother? How can scum like that walk the streets?
Good morning, Jeremy. Well, the criminal justice system has, you know, we put our faith in the criminal justice system to protect us and the public. And the reason we don't have people rebelling generally is because we believe that justice will come through the courts. This is a man that committed a minimum of 30 rapes, many more, almost certainly. And I mean, people have forgotten the fact that he's going to be out in 14 years. I mean, 14 years is nothing for those.
No, he's out on Thursday, mate. He's out on...
He's coming out, and the criminal justice system, of which, of course, Shabana Mahmood is a member, has been a lawyer for many years as well before becoming an MP, have let us down. And it's the whole criminal justice system that's in need of complete update, because
but I mean, you know what I want to say to you is I completely agree with you, but it needs to be more than that. Somebody in government has to have the common sense to go that vile paedophile on screen should be deported out of this country. Ridiculous. These laws, this is all part of the ECHR, all these ridiculous laws that allow... If I said to you, right, if I said to you on your street, a paedophile who'd raped kids more than 30 times is coming to live back in society, how would you feel? What about the victim here? Why is nobody thinking about her? Them.
Well, this is the thing. The victims seem to be put last in all these types of offences. And, of course, the victims will still be living, many of them, in the area that this man will be frequenting. It's just not good enough, and we need legislation that protects the public. I heard you say earlier that in any other country, he would have just been put on a plane and hang the consequences. And I think that's really what we need to do. And I'm sorry, Chris Philp, to come out and say, well, this all needs to be changed. Well, that the Conservatives were in power when this man was put in prison. This is not something that's just happened out of the blue.
No, I agree. I completely agree. My problem with it is that we seem so... Well, certainly under Starmer, I don't know what will happen under Zelensky. Sorry, Burnham. The thing about it is, to me, that's so appalling that all the people... And I feel myself getting angry whenever I talk about kids being abused, quite rightly. I have lefties that talk to me and they go, oh, human rights. What about the human rights of those kids whose lives have been completely destroyed forever by this vile paedophile, and they go, oh, you're being unfair because he's Pakistani. In Rochdale, it was Pakistani grooming gangs. I had a senior police officer in the force up there tell me, and I quote, it took us longer to sort it out because we were told not to inflame local tensions. I don't care, I've said it before, Chris, right? I don't care the colour of your skin, I don't care about your religion or your creed or anything. If you think it's OK to rape a child, in my mind, you have no right to be at liberty. And if you've come here illegally and you do something like that, you should be thrown... it's gone. absolutely gone. We hang around there. Oh, we'll look like Russia. We'll look like Belarus. No, we'll look like a country that favours paedophiles over their victims. That's the truth, isn't it?
Well, the point is we have imported a huge number of people who come from a culture, and it's not all of the cultures.
No,
we mustn't.
But Chris, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm on one because I've got six kids.
Right.
That is not a bloody excuse. I want the people from his country, his religion, his creed, his culture to stand up and say, he's a paedophile, it's wrong. As much as I know it's wrong.
Absolutely right. But the culture, there are certain cultures that view this as not being wrong.
Yeah.
And they're not entitled to live in a country like the UK or the West, actually. And I do get a bit concerned sometimes for when the Asian community generally is mentioned, because this is not an issue for most Asian countries. This is particular types of individuals who see this as being a norm. And in this country, we need to take such a firm stance.
That is not the norm in this country. You're not adhering to the laws of this country. Leave this bloody country. That's the truth.
Yeah, and exactly that. The legislation in this country needs to be firmly and fairly given out to those people that commit offences. And we need to take stronger action. We need to change legislation, but we have become enthralled in this court system that the courts overrule everything else, that they're there to protect the individual. Well, it's not about individuals necessarily, it's about the public, and we need to protect the public.
And I think also that the obsession, as with so much in this country, that, you know, amongst the police, there were problems racially in the 70s and 80s, but we've gone to the point now where you had the Henry Novak case, where a white boy had been stabbed by a Sikh gentleman who simply took his turban off and told the police he'd been racially attacked, and they arrested and cuffed a boy who was dying and didn't believe he was being stabbed. It's exactly the same as this, OK? I always listen to people tell me, oh, this won't look good. It doesn't look good to have a paedophile, whatever the colour of their skin, walking free in this country. I want to put the victims in front of people like him. I want him deported. He's a piece of scum who doesn't deserve to be here. Why is that not? That's perfectly simple to me. Perfectly simple.
Yeah. Let me go back a couple of stages. In the 70s, there's no doubt that we had a real racism problem within the UK.
Yeah.
In the 80s, it was fading a little bit. Now we have a situation where there are more mixed marriages in the UK than probably any other country in the world. Racism, you know, it's easy for me as a white man to say it. Racism is something that is in the past generally. But of course, we've still got the people, the race baiters that want to keep this theory alive that we're all racist, everyone's racist. Therefore, generally, people are scared, and the police are part of that, scared to actually deal with people without fear or favour. And that's just wrong. And we're not a racist nation, but we need to deal with cultures that do not accept a Western way of life.
Couldn't agree more. Always great to have you on, my friend. Really, really appreciate it. Chris Phillips, former senior police officer and ex-head of the National Counter-Terrorism Security Force. 24 minutes to 10 o'clock. Hev, good morning.
Good morning, Jezza. All this Andy Burnham stuff, oh my God, what a pain in the neck. I mean, the man wasn't even in bloody Westminster, and now everybody's talking. I just wish the media would stop talking about him as if he's a PM. I hope there's a contest, and I hope he loses, and I hope he gets a new pair of glasses that don't have a nose attached to them. Anyway, have a lovely day. Thank you. Bye.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Yeah, Kev sounding great on Drive. He's here from 4 o'clock this afternoon. He sent me a message saying, I haven't seen you for ages. We're like passing ships in the night. The joys of the beginning and the end of the day. 0344 499 1000. We keep going back to Burnham, you know, that sort of vacuous speech on Monday. One of the other things he didn't talk about was anything to do with stopping the boats. We're waiting today for some small boats mid-year figures. Just imagine how that sounds. But since Prime Minister Keir Starmer came into power, illegal migrants, channel migrants, 76,530. 76,000 people have come into this country illegally since Keir Starmer was the Prime Minister. Illegally, 11,821 just in 2026. The 76 figure is more, I keep saying it, than the combined numbers of Army, Air Force and RAF that we have to defend a nation that the Prime Minister won't spend money on. It is utterly disgusting. This story will never go away. From that are other stories like the one yesterday where the Sun broke, great piece of journalism, Julia Atherley it was, who discovered that 83 asylum seekers, and illegal asylum seekers, were set to move into 21 brand new build homes costing £250,000 each in Stoke Heath in Shropshire. And although today Mahmood says, oh, that's not going to happen again, those 83 are moving into those houses, brand new, subsidised by you, the taxpayer. I know a lot of people go, oh, stop moaning. Stop moaning? No, we'll just pay our taxes and go to work and get hot and get absolutely sod all and they'll get a brand new house. Doesn't make any sense. Tony Smith is former head of the UK Border Force. Morning, Tony. How are you?
Morning, Jeremy. I'm good, thanks.
Do you know, I was listening to you the other day and I was driving and I love the bones of you, but I thought to myself, is this ever going to change? All it is people say, oh, well, you know, there's no will or there's no training or there's no money or the fundamental issue is, I think we're getting to a point, Tony, right? I really think we're getting to the point where people won't accept this much longer. I'm not in any way, never have been, don't condone, you know, peaceful protest, yes. But you can feel the palpable anger and understand it, my friend, right? When 21 250 grand houses are given to 83 illegals, and I've got people listening, OK, listening, saying, and I quote, I can barely afford my mortgage, Jez. It's not right.
No, I think that's right, Jeremy. People are, I think, increasingly frustrated about the asylum support system that we have in this country. The current Home Secretary has made a number of announcements recently. We've got another new law coming out this week, the Immigration and Asylum Bill. That will at least attempt to get some money back from asylum seekers, 10,000 per applicant if they get to stay here, to repay some of the costs, but it probably won't, you know, go
But what
very
about
far.
the ones? What about the ones with respect who aren't staying here, and how long will it take them to get jobs to pay back the 10 grand? Why not do what any normal person in Britain thinks, which is rather than making pays for if they stay or.
Yeah, and I think the point there is the previous legislation, the one act that has been passed by this government. I did give evidence to Parliament about that one. As you know, Joe, and we spoke about that before, it lifted the removals deterrent. In fact, most of the last Act unpicked the Illegal Migration Act 2023 and the Safety of Rwanda Act. So essentially that was a manifesto commitment by this government. They're going to abolish Rwanda. That means that a lot of those people you're seeing there who make it to the UK actually won't ever be removed because they come from countries that won't take them back, and we don't have a third country removals deterrent. So I have consistently argued that I think that was a mistake, and that although the removals are up, they are removing a lot more people under this government than the last government were. Actually, the numbers coming by small boat are not being detained and removed. Now, they have announced a 40% increase in the detention estate. What we haven't yet seen is a removals deterrent. If we can't send them back to France, we can't send them back to Syria or Afghanistan or some of these other places, then where are they going to go?
Why don't we just put them on? Why don't we?
It seems they're still going to stay here, aren't they?
Well, this Pakistani grooming gang ringleaders, to bring in another story that I was just doing, Shabir Ahmed, right? You'll think I'm nuts. I put him on a plane that's flying to Pakistan and be done with it. That's exactly what I would do. And I don't understand. I mean, I remember Rishi Sunak having that meeting with that incredibly tall Albanian Prime Minister and doing a deal. And I think 8,000 prisoners and other people were deported back to Afghanistan. How do we live with an argument that says, well, they're not from our country, so they're not in our country now, so we're not having them back. They're not British. They're coming here for benefits and they're coming here to game the system.
Yeah, the difficulty with this case is that he came here a long, long time ago. And I know, because I was in the department way back then, I'm showing my age now. So up till 73, pretty well Commonwealth citizens were the same as British citizens. You know, there weren't any immigration controls. It was pretty well free movement up till then. I went on my training course in 73 to learn about all this stuff. But people like that, and we've had all the Windrush stuff since then, remember, Jeremy, people that have been here for that long, under the current legislation, we have not got legal authorities to actually remove. That's what this story's broken. It's because he's been here so long. So, you know, you're going to have to change the law to go right the way back to basics. 50 years now of, you know, people, what is the rule when you've been here that long and you become a bad guy? Are we able to deport you at the moment? No, with this guy, we can't. I think we do need to look at our deportation capabilities, because I'm afraid the problem we've got is that to many of these countries, we can't remove them because there is always some legal reason, a judicial intervention or a legal framework that prevents us from doing that.
But how do other countries deal with it, Tony?
And this government's
how do the other countries deal with it? The other countries don't seem to have the issues that we do, or do they? Am I missing the point?
No, they do, Jeremy. I mean, I chair conferences all around the world. I'm just back from Lisbon chairing a border management conference. There are similar issues in other countries as well,
right?
Because there's a massive legal framework around all of this based on international law, the conventions, you know, UN conventions, European conventions that clash with what governments want to do. So I think we are not alone in this problem, but nonetheless, I think that, you know, this government is trying to do some things around the edges, but unless you detain, you visibly see people coming off those boats, going into detention and being sent back. You visibly see people like this, serious criminals, being moved onto aircraft and deported, then people aren't going to buy it. And I think we therefore do need some kind of a thorough review of our entire immigration legislation, going right the way back to the 70s, because everything's just been bolted on top of the 73 Act. And now you're seeing all these discrepancies creep out. So it does require an awful lot of work to reframe our legislative framework to enable us to deliver what the public expect. Is that, you know, if you are here illegally and you're staying here illegally, then you should not be allowed to do that. And all of the old conventions and legislation that this was all built on no longer apply, do they? Because we live in a different world. And I think that is really at the heart of this. And you will get caught up with various political views from the left and the right about how to go about that. But it does demand that kind of forensic review and analysis of our legal framework in dealing with immigration, both legal and illegal. And I don't think we've gone that far yet under any recent government, or any government, going right the way back to the 70s, I'm afraid.
Couldn't agree more. Just quickly, are you impressed with Shabana Mahmood, or do you think she's reactionary rather than proactive?
I'm impressed with her. I think she's done a lot of things since she took over in the Home Office. I think she's now beginning to run into some political issues in her own parliamentary party. You might know more about that than I do, because some of the things she suggested is trying to produce a balanced picture in this new bill. I think this will all be reported out, because we're talking now about safe and legal routes, which some people will raise an eyebrow and say, well, why are we bringing people over from safe and legal routes? Well, you haven't sorted out the illegal routes. And I think, you know, there are people in the Labour backbenches that actually come from large immigrant communities that will want more migration and won't like some of these reversals of Article 8 and modern slavery. On the other hand, there are people to the right who are saying, well, actually, we absolutely have to do that because people have had enough, as you said at the top of this interview. So I think that it's going to be interesting to see how she gets on. But I think she's actually, certainly, she's understood the issues around all of this, and she's trying to tackle them. How far she'll be allowed to go, I'm not sure.
Be interesting to see if she stays on under Andy Burnham. Seriously, Tony, brilliant as ever. Former head of UK Border Force, Tony Smith, on Talk Breakfast. 12 minutes now, we've got some breaking news for you. The Independent Office for Police Conduct, the IOPC, has just announced, thank God, it's going to investigate the conduct of those 2 Hampshire police officers in the Henry Novak case. We've been calling for this, whether or not, you know, the police are constrained by fears of being called racist. The man complained that he'd been attacked. If you, as a serving police officer, look down on an 18-year-old kid who says, I've been stabbed, sir, and you go, I don't think so, mate, and the kid dies whilst you're handcuffing him and reading his rights, you need to answer those questions. The IOPC has just told us it's investigating the conduct of 2 Hampshire police officers in the Henry Novak case. We'll keep you updated on that. Dan, good morning.
Morning, Jez. It's Dan from Kent. Remember the sitcom Bread with Joey Boswell and his mum and family? That's got to be the Burnhams, isn't it? Number 10 in the North, sitting around the kitchen table, trying to plan little schemes to tax more people to pay this $5 billion deficit. Seriously, though, I mean, when we're going to get a government that stops focusing on who they can tax more and actually focuses on where our tax money is being spent? What is the point of defence, or lack of defence, if we all hell-bent on stupid projects like net zero or welfare, which is forever going to be going up and up and up? Great show.
Thank you, my friend. 10 to 10. We'll talk football in a minute. Chris in Cumbria. Max, you'll have to... Max Scott from... Put your fingers in your ears. Quite near the mark, this. Just talking about that rape gang leader. He and all those who have committed such crimes against kids should be castrated the minute they're convicted. Somebody wants to talk to me about that. And then the imbalance that causes that goes to the brain and it shows itself. I'd just lock them away on an island forever, never to be seen again. Sorry, Matt's in the Lake District. Sorry, Jez, you don't go far enough. If you rape a child, you deserve the death penalty. Oh, we're getting very deep here, aren't we? Susan says, thanks, Jez. Now I can't get that bloody song. Is there hope in my heart? Am I dreaming, Andy Burnham? No, I'm not. She said, I can't get it out of my head, you bugger. If Meghan walked around London on her own, nobody would recognise her. Well, they would if she was trying to sell jam. Andy Metcalf says, sorry, Cabinet meetings on a Monday, Prime Minister's questions on a Wednesday, meeting with the King on Thursdays, and yet old Mr Burnham wants to live in Manchester on a Friday. It's working from home. It's a hard job. Don't be so disrespectful. Hello to Jim in Lincolnshire. I wasn't happy in the hell of Starmer's power, but heaven knows I'm miserable now. I was looking for a job, then I found a job, but taxes mean I'm worse off now. So it's a new Smith song. Have you, Max, welcome to TalkSport. Have you seen Andy Burnham in the back of the cab?
No.
Do you want to see it?
Yeah.
Max is a northern man. We won't get political with this. This is potentially our new Prime Minister. You ready? Here we go. Here we go.
I left the north again, I travelled south again. Well, there's a bit of a Smiths lyric there for you, but I'm back in London. After the speech, pleased with how number 10 North has gone down. You know, what it will mean in future is that everybody doesn't have to come down here to have a serious conversation with the government. If you think about it, a North Pole to the South Pole, it'll just make the country feel more balanced. I hope you're excited by it. I'm certainly excited by it. The whole idea is number 10 North is a conduit to get power out into the country, every single part of it, and get growth going everywhere. So, yeah, come on, everyone, get on board with it, and let's make it happen. Good growth in every postcode, hope in every heart. That's our mission.
We'd never ask you from TalkSport to be political, but have you got hope in your heart about tonight's game?
Yeah, of course I've got hope in my heart about tonight's game. We're playing against, the DR Congo.
I've just been in the loo with Andy Goldstein. That doesn't sound right. The 8 o'clock break where every breakfast was me, Chris Evans and him meeked for a piddle. And he said, I can see it now, Jez. We'll be 1-0 down in the 82nd minute. We'll score and then we'll lose on penalties.
Well, I mean, everyone's an oracle in this game. We can all predict a scoreline with a certain amount of confidence and make people convinced of that. Look, that could happen. Of course it is, because we've seen against Ghana, we've seen against Panama, but when teams park the bus and play in a low block, it's really difficult for anybody, but particularly England, to break that down. I think Thomas Tuchel has, in terms of his messaging, Jeremy, this week has got it bang on, because he's not trying... What he said is... We don't expect glamorous football against a side that all they're going to try and do is limit England. Expect glamorous football to come out when we play against sides that want to play their own way and try and win the game.
When will that happen? Because we'll be out the tournament.
Well, we won't be out the tournament necessarily, Mr Doom and Gloom, or World Cup Scrooge over here.
I love this kid.
We could well
this kid. And shall I tell you what? Am I allowed to tell him?
Of course you can.
This kid here, right, and I will support this kid, and I'm allowed to call him kid because he probably is.
I'm 33.
You still could be my kid. I was on a train once, and I was sitting there minding my own business. I was in first class, I will admit. Or no, I wasn't in first class. There was no first class. And this guy who was really drunk and a bit of a troublemaker started leering at me. And I looked to my left, and there was Max on his way, I think, to Glastonbury.
And now another festival down south.
All 6'8" of him, and he protected me. He was very sweet, and you're a great broadcaster. I'm not doom and gloom. I'm just old enough to have been bloody depressed.
Well, look, I get it.
Times.
You know, there'll be
That's
people
all.
listening saying, Max, why are you being so positive? It's not doom and gloom, it's realistic. And if England get knocked out tonight or against Mexico in the round of 16...
tomorrow morning if they get knocked out.
Well, I'll take my medicine, but I wouldn't be surprised. All I'm trying to say is Thomas Tuchel's messaging is right.
Yeah.
We aren't... It's almost impossible to play glamorous football against the side that parks the bus.
Would France play glamorous football against the DR
It would
Congo?
certainly look less glamorous, and it wouldn't be great. And I'm not here trying to say at all, Jeremy. I'm not a snake oil salesman. France are better than England.
Yeah.
You know, France... If England play France, we'd probably beat them 1 out of 10. But I think, I'm just saying, if we do get France in the final, because they're on the other side of the bracket, we have to get there in the first place, I do think that Thomas Tuchel has more in his locker, more in his arsenal, to pull that out of the bag and get that 1 out of 10.
I can see us beating Mexico. I can actually see us beating Brazil. I can actually see us beating Argentina and making it to the final. I'm very frustrated. No, but Gabby to me this morning at Bonhor, and he said it to me, and he's right. He said, when this goes wrong, or if this goes wrong, Tuchel will be hung out to dry by not taking a right back. Yeah. That is apt. I don't understand a man who's had that much experience, that much success, that much time, hasn't taken a right back.
Rightly
massive,
so.
Massive
if there is a stick to beat Thomas Tuchel with, for my money, it's not about the fact that he's not English. He can't do anything about that. He's been given the job. It's not about the fact that he doesn't sing the national anthem. Fine. I'm not bothered about that.
I just want to win the cup.
Yes, it's about the fact that he's already made his biggest mistake. He cannot row back on that. He had one opportunity when Tino Livramento was sent home. We spoke about it with Harry Redknapp last week. He brought Trevor Chalobah. Now look, Trevor Chalobah is a decent centre-back, although Chelsea want to sell him. Como in Italy are interested, so he's not exactly climbing up the ladder, and he's left at home Real Madrid's right-back. Now, say what you want. I can hear the people listening now telling me, well, he can't defend. Well, he's Real Madrid's right-back, guys.
Lewis Hall, sorry. Absolutely about to go to a big... I mean, is there a bigger club than Newcastle? You know what I mean.
Lewis Hall locked up Lamine Yamal in the first leg of their Champions League knockout game. Lamine Yamal didn't beat him once.
No.
I'd rather have him at right-back than Trevor Chalobah or an injured Reece James or an injured Jarell Quansah. And you can hear the verve in my voice. Because I expect, Jeremy, and I know I've been Mr. Positive and Mr. Vibesman, I expect this will be... We are having England's post-mortem conversation before they've been knocked out.
How have I with this kid? You've gone from me being negative to calling me a miserable git. Now you're negative and I'm feeling better. Anyway, either way, he'll be back tomorrow morning with Harry Redknapp. Give me a score. A score prediction. We've got 30 seconds.
2-1. England will concede first, but win 2-1 in full time, in 90 minutes.
I think England are going to win 3-0, and it will be the easiest game and will be absolute. How the hell's that happened? I was depressed 4 minutes ago. What the hell's happened? Max, you're a legend. Of course, our sister station talkSPORT with all the action tonight. Good luck to England. Stand by. Julia Hartley-Brewer is here from 10 0344 499 1000. Julia after the news at 10. I'll see you back here tomorrow morning if I make it at 10 a.m. Have a good day. Ta-ra.
There was two things on that manifesto. One was a picture of Keir Starmer and the way